Hello, team. Welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pierce. This is an ATP Geopolitics pub chat with some of the crew. I mean, the whole crew aren't here. I don't know where the crew is. One of the crew is still having dinner. One is unable to join us due to back problems and can't sit at a chair for too long. And then a few are just AWOL. Dan's probably down the pub. Speaking of being down the pub, I'm going to crack open my beer for our pub chat. And oh no, Dan is here. He's got back from the pub, and Pierre is here. But this is amazing. We've got almost the whole team here. This is like we're almost corporates. Right, let's go around and just introduce who everyone is. What I can do is put your names up because I have the ability to do that. So if we start with, everyone knows myself, I'm Jonathan M.S. Pierce. Paul, do you want to introduce yourself, how we know you, and what are you doing infiltrating into this secret cult? Well, no. Can you hear us, Paul?
I can. Sorry, cut out for a minute, but now I'm back.
All right. I was just saying, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience and say how we know you, how you've infiltrated into this secret cult?
Sure. So my name's Paul. I'm part of the 50 States for Ukraine, Car for Ukraine group in the United States. And I had the lucky chance to meet you guys when you were coming to Lviv, and I happened to be there as well. And I got to host you and show you around the city a bit and travel with you, have some dinner, as you guys were there in, what was that, May? Delivering, I think, 4 trucks at the time. And so, yeah, happy coincidence that I got to cross paths with you.
Yeah, awesome. So it's an absolute pleasure to have had you there with us. Let's go on to Rob then.
So I'm Rob. I traveled over to Ukraine with the team back in May to drop off some generators and trucks. I was also recording video content for the channel.
Did an amazing
good to be here.
Yeah, you did an amazing job. If it wasn't for you and Pierre, I mean, it would be as if it never happened. So thank you to both of you guys. And then we get the legend. I mean, I don't, as Pierre will say, I don't use this word often. The word legend is very, very rarely used. But we do have the legend that is Pierre. Hey, Pierre, do you want to introduce yourself? No, we can't hear you. I just thought he was giving some kind of amazing like pause. Do you want to speak now? See if we can hear you. No, we can't hear you. I'll tell you what, sort your audio out. We'll go on to Dan. I thought that's just a great legendary pause, we might say. Dan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, but if I do, then everyone will wish I was muted. I'm Dan.
Hey.
I've just got back from riding around Wales for the weekend, which has been amazing. But the Ukraine trip, I was just lucky enough to send JP some buy me a coffee money, like whatever that was, 2.5, 3 years ago, was it? And just went, thanks, because like Ukraine news had died out. You just weren't hearing it anymore, but you were getting daily updates and quality commentary. And yeah, he just went, he remembered. So he gave us an interview. We were driving aid across quite a lot. And we had to raise sponsorship to pay for the vans and the fuel and ferries and whatnot. And JP kindly organised a couple of live streams for 2 different trips we did. And he remembered us saying we couldn't take the hire vans into Ukraine. So we kind of, we'd seen Ukraine, you could throw a rock and hit it, but we'd never actually got in there because we always unloaded the aid at the border and the Ukrainians took it over and we'd head back. But he remembered me saying, I really want to go into Ukraine. It's frustrating we haven't. Invited me on the previous trip and for some reason he let me back into the last one too, which I'm really grateful for because it's an amazing experience.
I've rued that decision ever since.
Hopefully that was enough waffling for Pierre to have sorted his audio out.
Pierre?
No. Techno troubles.
Techno troubles. Maybe I've just he's just saying hello. He's just here doing sign language. 2 minutes and then he'll be back or something. I presume he means. Okay, you can stay there, but we can't hear you, Pierre. But have a look at obviously all the settings and whatnot. And now we have Mark as well coming to join us in. He's finished his dinner. Can we hear Mark?
Yes,
No.
but he can't hear us yet.
This is an absolute travesty of.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you, Mark. We can
We've
hear
got
you.
you.
And Mark, do you want to introduce yourself? You just missed the introductions of
JP,
everyone else.
now we
You want
can't
to
hear you.
introduce? Are you serious?
What is going on?
I can
Hello.
hear you.
Yeah, you can. Oh, it's just Dan. It's just Dan has selective hearing.
Can anyone else
Mark,
hear JP? I can't.
Yeah.
Is there a real
Yeah, I can hear him.
Is there a real time lag? Oh dear. Well, I wonder what is going on. That might be something to do with. I'm going to move my internet onto a different internet situation. So if it cuts out weirdly, just bear with me. Mark, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi there. Yeah, Mark. I'm from Little Scott. I met JP a couple of years ago when we did a talk in near us near Stockbridge sort of area, and then you kindly invited me out on the first drive a year or so ago, and then foolishly let me back on the second drive.
Okay, that should be better. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Brilliant. The internet was on a wrong setting, so that should be on the correct setting now. I do apologize. Mark, would you like to introduce yourself to the team? I might just talk myself. I might just talk endlessly, maybe with Rob and Paul. If anyone else wants to pop in and introduce themselves, please do so. Pierre, can we hear you at all? No? Brilliant. Excellent. Mark, can you hear us? Can we hear you? Oh, my
It
goodness.
sounds like someone's got the video open separately.
I've got no problem with sound. Rob, do you have any problem with sound? Paul's got no
All
problem
good.
with sound. I'll tell you what.
No.
Dan, Paul, and myself will just chat amongst ourselves. You guys join in when you can and you are willing.
Yeah.
Right, guys. So we've got everyone together, or most of us together, and we are talking obviously about Ukraine. We'll get back to talking about our experiences in Ukraine and you know what we took away from that. I just want to have a little chat with you guys about what you think is going on at the moment in Ukraine. I've been a bit down, both in myself about thinking about what Ukraine is going through at the moment, and that's been reflected in my reporting, which I think hopefully has been accurate. Like, some people accuse me of dooming, but actually loads of analysts are coming out and saying the same thing at the moment. My position is that something has really changed with regard to air defense particularly, and that has brought about Russia doing a whole host of things. And as Pierre will tell me often, don't just think about what is happening at night with the strikes that take place at night. There are strikes that continue right throughout the day, the 24-hour period. And while I report quite often as to what has just happened on a daily basis the night before in terms of strikes, actually they continue through the day, and it is relentless and it is non-stop. And I think the situation is that Ukraine are desperate for air defense. And they're desperate to be able to, I think, strike at Russia's ability to fire these missiles and their ability to produce these missiles. And I think that is giving Russia a free rein at the moment to strike pretty consistently and very, very destructively at Ukraine. And I think this is going to be maybe one of the most challenging periods, if not the most challenging periods of the war, because I think we've almost got back to total war rather than kind of positional things and a bit of stasis on the front lines and stuff like that. So guys, I know there's a lot of us here. It's difficult to have cues as to when to speak, but does anyone want to come in and either disagree with me or give their opinion or agree with me over what you think is going on in Ukraine? And I'm going to crack open my Beavertown Luna Haze hazy IPA.
I'll go if you like. Yeah, so it's certainly been a period of highs and lows. I think when the Wild Breeze attack started coming in, the 40-day period, it was all very positive. And as we've come to the end of that, the situation's changed a bit. The long-range missiles don't seem to be going through as well. And then the attacks obviously going into Ukraine have become a lot worse.
Yeah, and yeah. Anyone else want to come in?
I guess the thing I would say is, even when I was in Zaporizhia earlier this year and last year, I mean, Nova Post had been hit there, Ukrepost had been hit there. And so I think there's a lot of focus right now that the Russians are hitting logistics inside Ukraine, but it's not as new as I think we think it is, right? I think that's been going on, and it's just more focused right now, which is certainly horrible. But I can't imagine that the Ukrainians, I think, are surprised by this, right? I think they knew when they started going after the boats in the Sea of Azov, when they started going after wild berries, that Russia was going to respond in kind. So I think the attacks have certainly been horrible, and I trust their government and Zelensky more than what I know. But I'm thinking that they knew this was coming, and I'm hoping that we eventually find out that they did some preparatory work to try and diminish how bad this actually seems. But again, I don't know. That's just kind of my thoughts.
I have lots of conversations with people on threads about wargaming and predicting and calculating. And of course, governments are going to know a damn sight more than we do, as you say, Paul. But also governments make mistakes. And we know that in May 2023, in the counteroffensive then, that Zaluzhny, who's held in high regard, he and maybe NATO and whoever else was advising him made mistakes, right? They miscalculated. Mm-hmm. They said we were expecting to make 30 kilometers a day and we made 30 meters, right? So that is a monumental miscalculation. So therefore, mm-hmm. It's not as if a country can't make mistakes. And so Ukraine, if we think that Ukraine is just perfect and can never make mistakes and can't make miscalculations, I think we're going to get ourselves into a bit of a twist. And so it could be that they predicted certain situations such as, and the one I keep saying is that the Russians wouldn't dare to try and blow up Turkish-owned or whoever third-party ships coming even into Ukrainian waters. They wouldn't touch them. And it may be that Russia went, well, actually, we are going to do that. They did that, and then no one's actually done anything about it. That could be a miscalculation that leads to Ukraine not being able to export from the grain corridor. I don't know. Anyone else, Dan, what do you think about?
I think Europe miscalculates every time we don't properly react and just call an ambassador in and give them a dressing down when Russia uses hybrid war techniques to provoke us. Drones with Semtex on the tarmac. 95% plus positive, that must have been Russia, and all the attacks on the airports, the missiles coming over Poland, Romania. Every time something like that happens, there should be additional funding automatically going straight in to Ukrainian both attack and defense, because attack is sometimes the best form of defense, as we've seen. That's what attacking Wildberries was. They are trying to bring the war home to Russia, and it's not strictly speaking this is a Russian reaction that they're doing this, because they were doing it, Paul, as you said, right? They were already striking the Nova Posters and plenty of other civilian targets. We see how many hospitals hit, how many schools. They've been doing it constantly. The fact that, it was really a Ukrainian reaction to them, and now Russia have just gone, oh, right, now we don't even have to pretend. That's why it seems to be gotten worse over the last, week or two, really, because we were all feeling pretty chipper about things a fortnight ago, wouldn't you have said, JP, I take my steer from you, 90% of my Ukraine comes from you anyway.
It's a problem, like speaking to you guys might be like speaking to myself. But no, actually, I mean, Pierre is a really good, keeps me on the level playing field, because he looks at Telegram way more than I do. I only have a certain amount of time to look at different sources. And Pierre says, look, mate, there's stuff going on here. Stuff is blowing up over here. And although, yes, they have been blowing up stuff throughout the course of the war, I think the last month has shown a greater propensity for the Russians to, they are statistically throwing more ballistic missiles into Ukraine than they have done ever before. They're statistically killing more civilians right now than they ever have done before since April 2022. They are, statistically things are worse, right? And so there is a step change. So when a couple of weeks ago, and Pierre called me out on this, he said, look, mate, only just recently you were saying that Ukraine were in the best position you can remember them being in. And I did say that very recently, but data changes, things did change. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think the problem is, if you follow it too closely, the moods kind of swing every day. as you expect, because different bad news comes in, good news comes in, bad news comes in, etc. And you just got to kind of take it more with that kind of step away from it and know bad things are going to happen, know good things are going to happen, and just get the general thrust of where they're going. And I think Ukraine are still in the best position they have been for quite a while. They're really taking the battle to the Russians. Where they are struggling massively, as we know, is in the defence. But there's also only a finite number of ballistic missiles that Russia can lob at them. There's only a finite number of targets that actually will be critical targets. And as long as only Ukraine will be taking measures to make sure that they mitigate against it, spreading out their warehousing, etc., so that they so that they can battle it. I mean, these guys have been at it for 5 years. They know exactly what they're doing. They really do, and I do think, I still feel positive for them despite the setbacks.
So that's what you're suggesting, Mark, is taking a macro look at it rather than being micro and in the weeds and going, living through the ups and downs and just stepping back and saying there are going to be these periods. And I guess it's the question for me is how much long-term damage can Russia do to Ukraine in the immediate future? So, like where there have been ups and downs before, there hasn't been, I don't think, the ability for Russia to say shut down Ukraine's entire exports. Do you know what I mean? Like hitting the ships and then hitting the port infrastructure. So they're going for what they're doing around Odessa. They're going for certain bridges as well. And without those bridges, you don't get the stuff to Odessa. Like Odessa relies on a bunch of pretty important bridges that Russia tried previously to hit, but it seems like now's the time for them to try everything because there's no defense really. And so if you hit the bridges, you hit the port infrastructure in Odessa, Chornomorsk, Ishmael, Remy, and then you hit the ships themselves, then suddenly Ukraine just can't export effectively. And that is a situation that I think they would have wanted earlier on in the war, but they were just unable to get. And now there's a very real chance that I think they can do that. So I think that this may be slightly different than previous lows, perhaps. I don't know. Does anyone want to agree or disagree? Pierre, can we hear you yet?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello, team leader and gang. Can you really hear me? Because it's the first time I've used this.
We can really hear you.
Shall I be quieter?
No,
sorry about that.
Please.
I don't know what's going on. I kind of listened to bits of it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, you are one of the people that keeps me on the straight and narrow when I get too kind of positive, Pierre. Well, what do you think about what we've just been talking about for as much as you could have heard it?
It's very concerning at the moment, generally. I don't know where to start, really, JP. It's all seems like a bit of a mess. It's always a bit of a roller coaster, up and down, but
you say that you see a lot of information about things getting struck right throughout the day. Do you think that the levels of destruction taking place now and missiles and drones, actually just regular drones getting through, do you think that is a different situation right now than Ukraine has experienced previously?
Generally, I think it's been at least a year and a half, like a cumulative effect of just hidden things, like the strike drones just spreading out, going in 2s, 3s, 4s, 24 hours, just non-stop really. And I'd see a lot of stuff getting hit, I don't know how important it is. We're just in such a bubble of what we see, like a lot to do with OPSEC, which Ukrainians are great at. They're very disciplined, but there's certain people. There's even Ukrainians sharing stuff on dubious Telegram accounts, not even to be pro-Russian, but just wanting to kind of show people what they've seen and stuff. So maybe it's a bit to do with that. But it's been like that for a while. But it's definitely accelerating, yeah. And what happens is we see a couple of strikes in Russia, and they're just so mental, like so inflammable and, you know, like spectacular.
Evocative.
Yeah, evocative, but spectacular and real, you know, it's all inflammable stuff. So we, you know, it's quite easy not to even bother looking at other stuff, and not saying we want to keep looking at other stuff, but it kind of, it definitely takes the headlines, you know. But then, like you've been saying the last week or two, like just, you know, a lot to do with interceptors, obviously, and it's just, it has hit another level, and I do see why Putin would want to just go for the juggler now and just, yeah.
Well, I think Putin's own future is connected to this. So I think, you know, for him to sustain his role as the head of Russia, he needs to come away with something here, and this is probably the best position for him to do so, since there are no interceptors, and that means that they can. And I've made this calculation recently, or this summary conclusion recently, that perhaps they're looking at the US and these Western allies and thinking they've used up all their interceptors in Iran and giving them to Ukraine, and they don't have their own defensive capabilities, and they've used up a lot of their offensive weapons. And so really, there's very little chance of the West attacking Russia. And if we are Russia, we know that we're not going to attack them, but they think that we're going to attack them. So they're going to keep hold of some strategic reserves, like Poland, Germany, etc., etc. So they're worried that Russia will attack. We know we're definitely not going to attack, but we want them to think we're going to attack. So therefore, we can just use up all of our strategic reserves. And if actually their production numbers have increased, then actually they can replenish those strategic reserves, not taking too long. And so it's not just about what they're producing, but it's about just wasting everything they've got to, well, not wasting, but as they would see it, to just really hammer Ukraine as much as they possibly can, make hay while the sun shines. And that's kind of, you've heard me say this a couple of times recently, but that's where I think it's at. Does anyone have any thoughts on those claims?
Well, I think you're exactly right in the sense that Putin, I think, has no choice right now but to launch his ballistics and have an effect, right? Because otherwise, you're watching wild berries burn, and you know, their drones, while not ineffective, aren't as effective as what you're seeing, you know, coming in, you know, via the ballistics. But one of the things I'm curious about is, I know Ukraine has been hitting certain, you know, component manufacturing factories, etc. I don't know how fast Russia can be replenishing right now, and I haven't seen a solid analysis of that, one way or the other. But I kind of feel like they're almost launching them as fast as they can make them, I think, right? And so this, while it's effective, it almost smells a bit like desperation, like Putin's got to make a show.
I think so. And I think so. So I did an analysis the other day and suggested that they are using up very new missiles. So they are building them and firing them, but they're also using up strategic stockpiles. And other analysts have also concluded this. People like Fabian Hoffman and Georgi Revishvili. The other day I did a thread of his, and that there are quite a number of missiles in the stockpiles, certain missiles. And so I guess it depends how much they can damage Ukraine with those ballistics. Ukraine's war fighting chances, like Ukraine's production of weapons. Ukraine seems to have hurt Russia's ability to produce drones somewhat. They were sending like 500, 700, 800 drones in a single wave or single night. I know Pierre said that actually they're sending a lot in the daytime now as well, so that mitigates why maybe there's not so many at night, and that's a really important point. But I think in general, I think Ukraine has probably hurt Russia's production of those, just not so much missiles, and I don't know why that is. Maybe the manufacturing is just too far away and too well protected. And there's been a bit of a failure, it seems, with Flamingo. So I'm going to ask you guys a question, and let's have, I don't know, Dan and Mark Rob answer this. Do you guys... So here's what I think is happening. Well, what is definitely happening is that Ukraine keep losing all of their Flamingos when they send these Flamingo FP5 cruise missiles, big cruise missiles, but they're firing them quite a long way. They go up the Volga River and then all the way to even maybe to Tyumen, and then they get blown up. And you're thinking, why do you keep doing that? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So why do you keep doing that? So what's going on there? And then why don't you just blow them up targets that are like halfway to where you're getting, because you know you can get there because you've empirically showed us by them getting shot down all the way over here. We'll just blow up something over here then that's half the distance. Does anyone have any thoughts on the flamingos, because they seem to be being a little bit of a letdown at the moment?
On my screen, Mark's there. He had some good theories on what you call the back channels, which is our WhatsApp group.
No, it sounds much better with the back channels.
No, back channels sounds like I can't believe I'm part of the back channel. I've been reading about them in, like, spy novels for years.
Well, it almost sounds like we're competent and proper professionals talking on the back channels. So I guess it's twofold. I mean, one of it is, if you're going 1,500 miles, there's obviously a target you really want to get to, because you keep lobbing them in there. Now, one is going to be using up Russian anti-ballistic missiles, or using up the airframes. And I know you were saying they're getting shot down by the airframes. Well, again, there's a limited number of airframes life and serviceability. The missiles will be able to shoot them down, etc. But there's got to be a target that they are desperately keen to get through. And all you need is one of them to get through, and you can potentially take out that target. And if it's that important, they'll keep chucking them out. So two things I think is, one, you're trying to get through to that target. Two, you're using up Russian stock. But three, if there was important targets within that 1,500 kilometer range before they get blown up, they'd have taken them out. There's something far more strategic that they're looking to get to keep on trying to punch through.
That's a really good point. So they're so desperate to hit this thing. It's such an important target, and maybe they only need 1 out of 50 to do it or something, and then
you need one lucky strike to get through, potentially, to be able to take out that target. Now, I know you were saying about when they send all 600 or whatever it was down to Novorossiysk and take out the fleet. The fleet is the Black Sea Fleet is pretty much muted anyway.
Yeah, I knew this would be an argument.
Yeah, and it hasn't. So what would it do? It would give them a bit of kudos in that they've taken out the Russian things, but strategically, even tactically or operationally, it wouldn't actually achieve anything, because they're not using those ships to lob missiles in, as far as I know.
Well, they are using some of them, I think, to fire cruise missiles, but actually not. But you're right; it's not a great. It wouldn't be a great coup, apart from PR wise.
Yeah. So and that's that. You got to argue, is that a good thing? Are you going to go for the big show, or actually are you going to try and target something that will give you what you want to achieve? And I think that's what they're doing here. They've got a target that they really, really want to hit, and therefore keep chucking them at it until one day the Russians don't respond, and one or two get through, and that they can take out that target. That's kind of me anyway.
I mean, they have had 2 successes with the missiles recently, and they did do really good, decent damage, right? So when they hit really well, right? There's no doubt about that. It's just like they are wasting an awful lot, or quote unquote wasting them, or maybe not. I don't know.
Spending. But also, they're expending them. Yes, that is the word. But at the end of the day, you've also got to take into account, how much is it costing versus how much is it costing Russia to take them out. There is a potentially just on cost basis analysis that it may well be that it's cheaper to fire them at them and get them taken out, because that's eating into Russia's capability to spend money on other things. You just don't know.
I spoke to Mike. Mike Braben is on our drivers group, but he's not on one of our back channel groups. And Mike was a guy that came with us to Ukraine. He had driven a number of times for Car for Ukraine previously, and he stepped in to help us with this latest one because there were 4 vehicles and we needed another driver. And Mike was wonderful. He said, "Look, old mates, that would have been really cool. Out and about at the moment, though. No worries, buddy. Maybe next time. Hope you're well. No talking about Rolexes and drinks." Private
Mike's the shyest me on that.
So no talking about relaxers, guys. Multiple relaxers. So anyway, yeah. So that's interesting position on the flamingos. It's just a shame because people held up flamingos with high regard. There was a lot of hope for flamingos, and they have had a bit of success. But broadly speaking, they have lost a lot of flamingos to Russian air defenses.
Can I jump in there?
Yeah, so please do.
I think one of the things the Ukrainians have been fantastic at is using this technology, which is on the bleeding edge. You know, it's not ready technology. They produce it and then test it and see what happens. So these missiles that are going out, every single time it gets shot down, they're getting data, and that can be coming back. They can be modifying it. Does this next one work? So I think there's a lot to be learned by how they're getting shot down as well.
Good point.
It's field testing. It really is, and you know, you get results back from that, and that helps you then improve to maybe be able to get them another 50 kilometers, another 100 kilometers, you know, until eventually you're able to beat it. And you know, I think you're spot on there, Rob. It's actual live field testing of a bleeding edge technology. You know, these guys they brought this in what, a year or 2 years of development that would have taken 10 years standard, you know, NATO development time easily. So they're not going to be the best, but they are going to be, hopefully, be good.
Yeah.
Can I come in?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, I agree what you're saying about them. I just thought it was really a bit fancy land that they would just produce something so quick and then produce 3 a day and then be firing 3 a day and hitting things. It was just, you know, and this is a really big point for me that keeps going around in my head. Like the difference between Zelensky's position and Putin's is that Zelensky is always has to try and sell himself, always has to try and motivate his population, but also foreign leaders, you know, like this whole, you know, hyping things up. You know, we've got to kill 30,000 troops a day or 40-day campaign. They're probably 2 bad examples, but you forget how easy it's for Putin just to say nothing, to be methodical about everything.
Such a good point.
And Zelensky just constantly has to, and even us here, like you, JP, you're saying you're not a cheerleader. You are kind of a cheerleader. And say Stubbs from Finland saying Ukraine's in the best position it's ever been. Like, he's not particularly saying that because he personally thinks that. He's also saying it because of the whole Trump thing and I don't know. It's just I just find that whole situation really unfair for Ukraine. But Zelensky has to do it for his population also, you know, to keep them hopeful in such a shit time, you know, being in this war.
I would somewhat disagree because when I cheerlead, I do it because I believe it. It's like I would never say.
Oh, sorry to put you out on that. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I was trying to say generally. That's why I was saying Stubbs. Absolutely. I could think of anyone.
Yeah.
Or any, but that's such. Or Firepoint guy. There's millions and thousands.
Yeah, but that's a really, really good point, Pierre, because actually, you know, Zelensky is consistently working his bollocks off for Ukraine. He's the busiest politician in the history of politics. I really do think that. But you're right. It's not just about trying to get deals done and get stuff from other nations, but it's about presenting a vision that would then motivate other nations to give stuff to him as well. And that's, as you say, that's Putin never has to consider that at all. He lives in a dictatorship and he's just going to screw his population over to make more stuff and then do some deals with North Korea and China. And like, it's just a damn sight easier for him to do what he does than it is for Zelensky. And it's going to be interesting to see how.
Oh, go easy. He's got to tell Trump what to think every couple of weeks, hasn't he?
Sorry, and the whole Trump has a massive part to play with this, with European leaders, for everyone, like to try and get him. We all know it's bollocks, but you know, he does play a big part in this kind of, you know, not propaganda, whatever you call it. This campaign to to up Ukraine, you know, which they deserve. I'm not, you know.
Yeah. And
it's kind of focused at him at times, you know. It's sickening, but. You know, that it's trying to nudge him in the direction, and you know.
I remember being on a live stream, Pierre, with Georgie from Ukraine Matters, and he was like, "We need to only be speaking about Ukraine. You can't. Why are we talking about Trump?" And that annoyed me a little bit, because I was like, yeah, but to be fair, like, if you're ignoring the international assistance to Ukraine, then you're ignoring why Ukraine is still in this war. Like, without the American assistance for intelligence, for example, right now, they wouldn't be striking what they're striking. Like, and you know, whether you like it or not, Donald Trump is an obstacle, is a massive obstacle to Ukraine doing better than they presently are, and therefore we do need to talk about him. But I want to go back to a question for all of you, because one of you was saying, look, I think it was Dan, was saying, look, when we have these issues, hybrid warfare examples, and so on and so forth, and when these horrific things happen that Russia does, we need to act more. We need to, you know, give more money and do X, Y, and Z. Well, that's the X. We can give more money, but actually, you know, it might be that the Ukraine needs other things, or there are other ways that we can help. What other ways? You know, if you are a president or prime minister of an allied country, what do you think you can realistically do to help Ukraine that's outside of just giving them money right now?
Okay, set up a no-fly zone, and they should have done this on day one. Like, you don't just
100%.
like, Russia's more scared of NATO than we are of Russia, and you don't deal with a bully by backing down. And that sounds so simple, and everyone's terrified of nuclear. What, they're not going to go nuclear? The whole point about nuclear weapons is mutually assured destruction. No one dare goes there. So no fly zone. Like, they are coming up to the border now, aren't they? You had one on Thursday or Friday, so I've not done weekend content because I've been away, but when you were showing, like, well, to get that far, you got the old ruler out on Benny's great map, right? And when that was 100 kilometers, that means they are dropping them off at the border now. And Who's Poppin' came up with well, maybe they're trying to tempt out the A50s with the consistently using the flamingo routes, right? That was another comment we just saw. But Ukraine just doesn't have the PAC-3s to, like, do you remember when they were, like, really cheekily earlier, they were like, take them to the forward lines and bring down some of the Russian aircraft, and as a result they started operating from much further back, didn't they? We need to give them more air defense. We need to give them that opportunity to push those planes back and get those KAB, those awful glide bombs, which are just as bad, if not worse, than ballistic missiles in terms of moving the front line.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But
but
we'll park that.
You know, we all talked about, oh, we need to be ramping up missile production and all of that when the war first started. Have we? What are our missile production rates? Why, you know, does Europe not? Can't we get more of the French ones? Because, okay, Trump spanked all his PAC-3s on his Middle Eastern allies thanks to Netanyahu's worm tongue whispering in his ear.
Yeah. So okay, so we can give more weapons, give significant pieces of kit, air defense systems, and a no-fly zone could be something that could be instituted. I think that I agree with you. I think that's something that should have boldly be done right at the beginning of the war. Any other ideas from anyone else in terms of what people?
I think every country has its own internal battle where they need to be beating the drum for Ukraine and saying, why are we giving this money, these weapons to Ukraine? Because a lot of the time there's a lot of announcements going on going, we've just given X, we've just given Y, but you need to keep the population informed of why that's being done, why we're defending Ukraine and supporting them, because otherwise the support's just going to slowly drop off, as you see in the Eastern European countries, until eventually the support stops, or it has to stop because the population don't want it anymore.
Yeah, so there are several battles going on. There's the information battle or the information war at the same time as the kinetic war, and it's you know, justifying assistance to Ukraine with consistently communicating why we're doing it. I don't think many rulers have done that, many leaders have done that in Europe or the United States or anywhere nearly effectively enough. I remember when Emmanuel Macron did it on TV with two journalists and had an hour on TV where he was just talking about why France is supporting Ukraine. And I was like saying at the time, every nation needs to be doing that. and he needs to be doing that repeatedly. And I think, you know, politics is all about comms. This is where Trump is very good. Like, even if you disagree with everything he says, he's on TV the whole freaking time, and he's talking and he's saying and he's communicating. I mean, it's batshit crazy, but you know, the mere exposure effect is this psychological phenomenon where the more you say something, it's how advertising works. The more you say something, the more credible and attractive it becomes. And so, you know, you need to be speaking all the time about your policies as a politician. You need to be on social media the whole time. You need to be on TV the whole time. And if you don't get that, you're in the wrong job. And when it comes to Ukraine, we need to be communicating really obviously. So every time that Russia does something like the drone in the Leipzig airport the other day, that just needs to be talked about. That needs to be thrown onto the news. Our leaders need to be thrusting that onto the news, saying to the news, you need to be reporting on this. I'm going to come and speak to you. I'm going to do a press conference on this, and I'm going to announce that Russia are being the bad guys now. We need to constantly be telling our populations that Russia are the bad guys, and that's why we're helping Ukraine. Anyway, rant over.
It's something I would like to see in the UK at the moment would be for Andy Burnham. He's done a lot of TikToks and these style of videos talking about which flavor of crisps he likes to eat in the pub and this kind of stuff. But I'd like to see him do some, you know, show he's a serious politician, go out to Ukraine, show the realities, a bit like what Boris Johnson did, obviously in a safer environment, and just really deliver that message to people.
Yeah,
but it's very much about controversy across, because after 4.5 years, it's not really in most people's focus. We care, and therefore we're in it day in, day out, and we know what's happening in Russia. But I was getting my hair cut the other day, and the hairdresser said, "Oh, is the war still going on?" It's and you kind of go, oh, okay. But that is kind of the level that it's got to. That it's not in the main news. It's not. It very rarely pops up. The other day it did with the beach thing, which I think was disgusting, in the sense that that came top news, and it was in fact Michael Clark really annoyed me with his analysis, saying, "Oh, they've got to justify, the fact they sent that in and didn't do enough risk assessment, then it might get shut." You're like, no, not at all.
Yeah,
anyway,
I agree.
I'm starting to rant now, JP.
But Michael Clark, I really like Michael Clark. He's a Sky. For those who don't know, he's on Sky News in the UK, and he's like the military. He's not a correspondent. He's a professor that they bring in to talk about, and he's usually spot on. But yeah, I agree with you on that analysis 100%.
Sorry, just finish that point. So I think it's about getting it back into the general knowledge of everyone that it's still going on, that there's still this threat, that we've got to get it. We've got to do something about this, and if we don't, then we are, one, setting ourselves up for failure, but two, we are not helping out our European neighbours where we should be, and that's, I think it's all about the politics of it. And Starmer was very good at it. He would promote, whenever Zelensky came over, and it'd get onto the news and all the rest of it. That needs to continue to happen.
Yeah,
and there needs to be more. It's almost banging the war drum.
Yeah,
it's what we've got to do, and the no-fly zone, I think it should have been done from day one.
Yeah,
absolutely should have been done from day one. But people are still shitting themselves about it, and it's just it's wrong.
Well, given that Russia keeps pushing the envelope with hybrid war, what are your guys' thoughts about, like, at what point do you go, okay, this is war? And it's not that we've started the war; it's that you brought war to us. Like, what? Like, is that ever? Is there? Hey,
you ramp up. They're doing hybrid war. Well, we should be doing the same back and more.
And I would say,
like I said, you don't keep retreating back and just bringing in the ambassador when these things happen. You react. You actually do stuff. And if you don't want to be shooting their planes down over on the front line, then you go and secure the western half of Ukraine and the safer areas, so they don't have to do a thing there. And their people and their equipment can go and concentrate on the front line. You can go and secure the border with Belarus. Right? You can just go and do that. That's, Russia's going to complain. Yeah, they are. But that's a response.
Exactly. And as we discussed this, if you remember, I put out, I tried to get a motion discussing Parliament about us putting boots on the ground. And it's not to war fight, it's to free up Ukrainians who can then war fight, manning borders, manning the safe areas. And you turn to Russia and say, you hit us, you kill a single of our servicemen, you will have a lot to pay for, and we will then start to engage in the war. And I think that is the only sort of thing we can do now in terms of pushing it.
Paul, what were you going to say, mate?
Well, going back, I think I agree with Dan and Mark. I love what you just said too. Every time they do something like the missile landing in Poland, the drone in Leipzig, all these things, and like you said, we don't really beat the war drum. We don't talk to our population about it, and we don't draw red lines, right? And so, as the token American in the room, I was so upset when they invaded in 2014, and there were sternly worded letters and red lines, and then we all ignored it. And I think we forget, that the thing I tell people, and as an American, right, we signed the Budapest Memorandum, and Britain signed it as well, right?
Yeah.
This is a violation of what we have agreed to. And I know they weasel worded it, and they try to hide behind that. But bottom line, when something happens like a missile crossing into Poland, we should draw a red line. And when that red line is broken, we should act. And that act might be a no-fly zone. It might be boots along Belarus. It could be a lot of things, but then, we've said what we were going to do. They've broken what we agreed to, and then we're going to do it. And we just got to keep doing that, I think.
I would love to see more Shadow Fleet vessels be detained by, if you had every European country doing that, then they wouldn't be able to patrol. I mean, the problem that UK supposedly has is that they keep patrolling the English Channel, and they're consistently within range of the ships we'd like to detain. But if we get together with Spain and France and Italy and the EU, because the EU now, I didn't realize they had this capability to do this. We say, right, we just need to coordinate between ourselves so that we are detaining 2 ships a week or something like that. And then you're pulling their fleet, you're stretching the Russian fleet, and then you're able to do that. But I don't know if there's that kind of coordination going on. I mean, surely there must be. But anyway, that would be something that I would like to see as a change. Now, talk about guided glide bombs. Viggo Holmson here says the carbs are still an immediate problem. Those the Russians have in abundance, tens of thousands. The range of the carbs has almost doubled in just a couple of years, says Viggo to Richard Bennett. So these are still a problem. They're a twofold problem. One, Ukraine doesn't have an answer for it, as in their own versions of these, although they do, but it doesn't seem like they have either enough planes or enough bombs to use them. They have ramped up usage of these, so they are definitely, the Ukrainians dropping a lot more of these than they were previously, but it's still a drop in the ocean compared to what Russia does. And these are the weapons, I think Dan was saying it, these are the weapons that push the front line back more than the other long distance weapons that are more about taking out military industrial complex and so on and so forth. These are the ones that affect the front line. And that is, I think, one of the most prevalent reasons as to why Russia has been able to advance as they have done over the last couple of years. And I just don't know what you do about this other than get more planes and more bombs to Ukraine and you need to strike at the Russian planes.
They need the
I think
air
the
defense.
Air defense, and I think the Gripen fighters, from what I've read, their longer range standoff air defense missiles could push the Russians back far enough that, again, now they'd be launching those glided air bombs from way behind the border as opposed to close to it, and just flattening the Ukrainian positions.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of hopes, a lot of store being put in the Gripens. They do have decent weapons. The Meteor weapon missile is very good, but actually Russians, if they use, I don't know how commonplace the best Russian missiles are on the Russian planes, but they still outrange the Meteor. But it's whether they actually have access to those missiles. And then, as Rob was going to kind of say, bringing these, as was mentioned earlier, bringing the air defenses forward as they did at a couple of stages, that really needs to happen to keep the Russians at bay. But then it's highly risky because, of course, drones can get everywhere. Now FPV drones are 60 kilometers of pretty regular ranges for FPV drones. So if you've got an air defense system within 60 kilometers of the contact line, that's a really high value risk you're taking. So these are difficult. Anyone have any thoughts on guided glide bombs? I know Pierre is sorry, Mark.
So I was just going to say, they are very much the tactical end of the spectrum in terms of what they're achieving. And you then look at I think you showed a video the other day where they fired in 4 or 5 carbs on top of a drone team, and the drone team all walked away. So whilst yes, they are devastating. Yes, they are, destroying town after town after town as they slowly advance forward. Russia's still only making 10 kilometers a month or whatever it is. That it's not going to win them the war. It really isn't. You've got to step back from that tactical level where it is and look more at the operational strategic level.
But I think lots of tactical levels make up the operation. Lots of operations make up kind of the strategy or whatnot. And I think that it's cumulative. I just think the destructive power of these, and that's why people keep complaining about them, including Zelensky. And I just, I wonder whether these HIMARS with cluster munitions were a bit of a hope to take out some of the closer airfields, but again, they only go 165 kilometers, those M39 cluster munitions on the HIMARS, which only gets you a couple of airfields. But Ukraine definitely seems to have been going for more airfields recently, and that gives me great joy. Like the Crimean airfields are definitely vulnerable, and then you've now got Republic of Aegea down in Krasnodar, you've got the one up in Kursk being struck a couple of times, so like that gives me a little bit of hope that Ukraine, and they need to stop those planes coming and dropping those guided glide bombs, because they're a fucking menace. And I know that Pierre, you've talked about this a number of times, that guided glide bombs are just fucking awful.
Yeah, I think they're the worst thing on the on the front lines, really, in the battle. I just agree with everything that's just been said, really. With the HIMARS, what are they called, M142s or something? Like,
N270s.
Yeah, like you can imagine, especially with those, the M26s, are they? I don't know, the short range cluster missiles, like
M39,
yeah, they're going to have to get really close to the front lines, and then it all comes back to drones. It's just changed everything, as we all know. It kind of goes without saying, but you just don't bring any high value targets,
That's a really good point, actually, because early on in the war, Pierre, when HIMARS were being so successfully used, do you remember when HIMARS first came in and they were like blowing up loads of stuff, and we got loads of HIMARS footage? Changed everything, it didn't it, at the time. But then what changed subsequently is that drones managed to get further and further back behind enemy front lines, and actually that makes HIMARS vulnerable. And the reason why maybe we haven't seen HIMARS footage of late so much is because they can't use them, because they can't get them close enough, because drones are a fucking menace everywhere. I mean, both sides are showing that. So
I'm not sure whether they've not got enough munitions or it's the actual systems. I still think they'd be using them, even just on the front line, like 50 Ks back or something. I just think it's a stock thing,
We've seen a few videos recently, whereas I hadn't seen them for ages. Yeah, and you do wonder whether as you say, it's a system. Did they lose a bunch of systems? Or did they just run out of the munitions, or both? And Turkey is playing an interesting role there, because they've done that before. They've given a load of stuff to Ukraine, but more under the radar. Someone was saying the other day that it's quite interesting that this was a lot more public, although actually it wasn't that public. It was in a congressional document that was legally had to be kind of written into that document, and then someone reads the document, they're like, oh, look what Turkey's got permission to give to Ukraine. So I don't know that it was particularly announced, but one analyst was saying, oh, look, this is Turkey being a bit more ballsy with Russia. I don't know that it is that at all. I'm
not sure if you noticed also that a lot of them were getting shot down, the Gimlers, which sounds bad, but they apparently it was S-400s that were taking them out. So it's not kind of
really they were using S-400 missiles.
As far as I know, what I was following, but a lot of them were getting taken down. So economically, it's probably not such a bad thing for 100,000 to be taken out by but
100%.
More the merrier of those. Bring them on.
Yeah. Let's get to a couple of comments. Super chat here from the pirate. Thanks, matey. Shouldn't Ukraine concentrate on hitting the Moscow or St. Petersburg, since the Russians are hitting Kiev and Odessa every day? So this brings on the question of like, why do they keep sending so? And we've had this discussion on the back channels. Why do they keep sending so many drones towards Moscow? And Drone Bomber had a bit of a whinge about this the other day. Then it was pointed out that actually a lot of them could be decoys, and if they're decoys, that changes the calculation quite a lot, right? And you are looking to expend all of Russia's air defense interceptors, but also just it only takes a couple to get through to cause some serious damage, and it's a psychological effect. But I do wonder, because they've actually stopped doing that pretty precipitously. Like, it seems like suddenly it stopped, and at the same time, Zelensky made a comment on this, and this might be one of those examples of a miscalculation. I don't know, but what do you? I know, Mark, you had some thoughts about why they were going for Moscow, aligning with what some of the arguments I just said. Any thoughts on why they kept going for Moscow time and time again with all sorts of drones?
So, as we were saying earlier, there's two factors. One is wearing down the air defense. Two, trying to break myself through. But also, it's about taking it to the Russian population. It's keeping that. For the first 3 years, they really didn't know there was a war going on. Other than coffins coming back, they weren't. It wasn't affecting them. Their daily lives weren't in danger of being hit by a drone or a missile or something coming through. And I think by taking it to them, by making the Muscovites actually worry about getting killed or alarms going off in the middle of the night, and having to put the same pressure on not going to sleep at night, not being able to get their fuel, it has a effect on the morale. And I think you've got to in all aspects of war, there's more than just blowing things up. That you've got to address the morale. You've got to take it and get people to be pissed off with the fact their lives, and I'm seeing it every day. Different YouTube channels checking up videos of Muscovites complaining about the fact that they've just the warehouse just been blown up, or they've lost their business, or they can't get the petrol, or they can't. That's the sort of thing that sows discord. And you've got to do that. So there's they're attacking that moral side of it, the morale.
I just usually accompanied by, why are they doing this to us?
Yes, exactly.
Why are you playing?
What have we done wrong?
Yeah. But yeah, I still do want, and I get all of that, Mark, and I agree with all of that. I'm just like, but is that enough? Like, have they stopped because actually it wasn't bringing them enough return on investments? I just don't know. I mean, they have certainly what Zelensky said yesterday is that they have fixed air defenses in Moscow. So that's could have been one of the objectives, which is, they've now built a fourth layer of defense. And he was saying that means they can't build them elsewhere. And obviously that means that Ukraine can go and hit elsewhere. But I do wonder.
The argument is if they're getting their air defense all around Moscow in different ring and ring after ring, and now on the fourth ring, it's fixed. Those assets are fixed to defend the Muscovites. Now, actually, what that means is other areas are now open to be farmed. And as I said on the dog's trying to get in. As I said the other day, now you'll see them switch. They'll then jump across to hit some of those vulnerable targets, and then you might see that the Russians then have to reallocate their air defense and move them to protect some of other targets. So it's a game of cat and mouse, constantly changing the picture, making the Russians react. So you fix them in one place, you hit them hard elsewhere. And then you come back and fix them again because now you can get through into Moscow because they've had to remove some of their assets away. And it's just constantly trying to change that picture all the time until eventually you get something to get through.
Rob, talk to me about wind. Sorry.
Which type of wind?
Talking about these drone attacks, as Mark was just sort of detailing. Rob, just for a bit of extra context, Rob flies planes and he deals with a lot of wind, and anything concerning wind, he knows it. So you've on the back channels previously talked about like, oh, I think this could be a good night for striking because wind direction was looking good. Talk to us about like what's your knowledge of how wind can affect, say, a larger plane, and then scale that back to a smaller drone, and how it might affect the range and also, you know, whether you can hit a target. You think, you know, what the struggles would be for a smaller drone to be able to get 1,500 kilometers if there is a large amount of wind.
Yeah, so on the days when you see Ukraine stay away from certain areas in the east, there tends to be quite a strong wind coming from the east, you know, say 20 to 30 knots, which will reduce the range down. So on those days, they might head up more to the north, whereas if there's a tailwind coming from the west, they can then head in that direction, and it might actually extend the range of the drone, you know, an extra 10, 20%. The other thing you notice is if the cloud base is quite low or there's storms, then also stay away from those areas because the drone itself won't be able to see, you know, potentially if the storm's strong enough, it could just get completely knocked out of the sky.
Yeah, because I do wonder that because, you know, wind can be pretty strong up there in the sky. And when there are storms and whatnot, like a Lyuti or an FP1 or FP2, it's not the most substantial of aircraft. And it's not like a Boeing 747 that can fly above it and take a bit of buffeting. These things are going to be potentially blown out of the sky. So yeah, I probably have forgotten to take wind into account nearly enough.
It's certainly where the you know, the ballistic missiles pay off because they just go straight up, straight down. They're not really concerned about the weather. They're not using visual targeting necessarily, so they can just go straight in.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I was just looking through. I was trying to find a picture of Paul Hoke, and I've got one that I could show, but there's someone else in the picture that we can't show. We're not allowed to show someone who was having a meal with us, and unfortunately, all the ones I've got of Paul also have this other person who's a serving guy out there. But I am going to show you this because I'd completely forgotten about this. Right, this makes me laugh. I am laughing at myself. So I don't know if you guys remember this. This was photo bombing. This was TV news bombing. You got a Polish news presenter here in the middle of Kiev reporting on the news, and I'm like, right, I'm gonna get in this, and I purposefully like drove my little wheelchair and did a couple of rounds to try and get in there. I just came across that and thought I'd show that. Yeah,
I was so disappointed I couldn't find the video on their YouTube channel of that.
Really? Did you look for it?
I did look for it.
You legend. There is a video I still want to do, which I haven't got around to doing, which is talking about the challenges, because we've got a bunch of different videos of me struggling to walk, me struggling to get my wheelchair through potholes and whatnot. And there is a video that we're yet to produce of the travails of being disabled or accessibility basically in Ukraine. And let's have a little conversation about that. I mean, Ukraine is going to be, I mean, interestingly, they don't release the numbers. Pierre, you might know about this because you know Eddie that lost a couple of limbs and is now a representative for Superhuman, the Lviv charity rehabilitation center for disabled, mainly veterans. But, you know, accessibility in Ukraine isn't great. They're not particularly known for making it easy for disabled access, but they're going to have to. And I believe when we were talking to, I think maybe Eddie about this, they're like, they do not produce the numbers of people who are now disabled in Ukraine because that gives you an indication of the success of the Russians in injuring Ukrainians. Which I thought was pretty interesting, and it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, so they keep it close to their chest, really quite how many people have lost their limbs and whatnot. Any thoughts on that, Pierre, or any discussions?
I just try to remember the number he gave. I thought it was 100,000, but it was definitely tens of thousands. It was something quite striking like that.
It was,
obviously there's
tens of thousands. It was hundreds.
I think it was 100,000. Yeah, and I'm not sure whether they're all war related, but I think they are. Yeah. Superhuman's just opened one in Odessa recently, which is a positive. So, did you hear that?
Yeah. But it's both positive and also a reflection of the great need, sadly.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's it's going to change the whole society, surely, isn't it? Just,
Yeah.
but maybe it might be a positive leading country in the world for it one day. There's so many. Imagine how many
That's
are in Russia also. Like, I guess a lot of them died there. That it's different.
yeah.
Yeah,
But they're definitely the numbers in Russia. I mean, there have been some analyses of disabled benefit claims in Russia and trying to marry that up
yeah,
with casualty numbers and whatnot. And it's definitely pretty staggering numbers in Russia. But I mean, I always try and look for the silver lining for Ukraine in this war in terms of like what are they going to be really good at after the war, because they need to rely on these areas where war has given them something to be successful at. Now, obviously, military industrial complex goes without saying, drones, drone tech,
yeah,
things like the Delta system, but then things like, the tech in general. But as you say, accessibility, I mean, they're going to have to get a hell of a lot better, because I've had
yeah.
some pretty shocking experiences. I mean, Mark, when we first went to Ukraine, fireman lifted me pretty much onto the trains, because the trains are the old Soviet trains are like 6 foot off the ground or whatever. You have to get up these stairs. Like in the UK, it's just, I don't know why they've got a difference there. They have the platform not far off the track, and so you climb up to the trains. In the UK, the platform is raised, and the train turns up and you go from the platform to the train. It's at the same level. I don't know why that's not a thing in Soviet era countries, but it's not. So you have to climb up these big old, very steep steps. And when you can't use your legs very well, and I was really ill when we went to Ukraine the first time, it was actually the second time I went. Mark, you bundled me onto the train, and then I was in all sorts of trouble and couldn't make it to the toilet on time either, and my legs just didn't work, and it was an absolute disaster. And I was like, oh my god, but if it wasn't for you. But they all thought I was just pissed.
Yeah, they did. Typical pissed Englishman trying to get on the standing. You can't get on the train.
Yeah, at midnight.
And they're all
Yeah,
pushing past you. There was no sense of queue either. Let's get the disabled chap
yeah.
on first. Nah, I'm getting my cabin out my bloody way.
Can I just say one thing about disabilities and stuff? Like, whenever you see someone with an amputee, like a leg, arm, anything in Ukraine, like their life has been saved. Like every one of those people you see would have bled to death if they didn't have decent, triple TC training I'm not trying to put a silver lining on it, but they've all been saved from death. These people, they would have bled out, all of them.
Another great point. Another really great point. Yeah, and
it just shows,
well,
the importance of training.
Yeah, often there's a comparison
13
between
minutes.
Ukraine and the what's it, the golden hour and then the platinum 5 minutes, and
Yes.
the recent figures for Russia are astoundingly bad, that actually they are now having more deaths than wounded, like as in critically wounded, where normally you expect, say, a 3-to-1 WIA to KIA or something like that, whereas Russia now has something like 1.5, no, 1 to 1.5 or something. I forget what the numbers are, but they're having more deaths than wounded, which is just astoundingly bad, and just goes to show how difficult it is in these contact lines when you've got drones flying around everywhere for both sides to get your guys stabilized and then get them to some kind of point where they can be taken to a major medical facility.
But it's interesting. So when the SA-80 first came out, and we moved down from
to let people know what that is, that was the SA-80 is a British assault rifle, effectively.
Yes, yeah, and we took a step down in caliber, and people are like, but the beauty about the old SLR, etc., is that you knew you'd probably kill the guy. And it was going into moving the battles away from, actually killing, because killing just takes one person off the battlefield. If you injure and wound, you take 3 or 4 people off the battlefield. And actually the round was designed to tumble. So if it could hit you in your leg and it would end up coming out your shoulder type thing, because it would tumble through your body and try and cause lots of damage to you. That meant that you weren't killed, but you then became someone that had to be taken off the battlefield by a number of other people. And tourniquets went out quite some time ago, before the Gulf War, it was very much it was not the done thing to use a tourniquet, because it was more likely that you'd cause damage by putting a tourniquet on, and you'd lose a limb, etc. But it then became so important because actually it saves life. Yes, you might lose a limb, but you're still alive as a consequence of it. And I think that was the Afghanistan, and really brought that back into focus, and using the tourniquet to save life. And the amount of people who now, they're missing limbs and stuff, but they are still alive because that immediate action of putting a tourniquet on, stopping people from bleeding out, saves a life.
As Viggo says, but now due to the extended range of drones, the staging and evac points had to be placed much further back from the front lines. I mean, drones really have changed everything about how war is carried out. And
cabs.
Yeah. These guided glide bombs.
Points, like stabilization points. Horrific.
But now at least there's new technology coming in with the land operated drones, where they can load a casualty into that and get them out of the front line safely.
Yeah, the unmanned ground vehicles are becoming more and more an integral part of warfare in Ukraine, because they need to replace humans with robots. And this is Mikhailo Fedorov's position. I think it's the new setup's position as well. It's interesting. I've not really been paying too close attention to this, but they are still protesting. And in fact, there was a complaint today that one of the Telegram channels for protesters has been taken down by, one presumes, the government, or it's disappeared somehow, which would be slightly worrying. That if that's the case, then maybe the Zelensky government is trying to stamp down on freedom of speech there, or freedom to protest, or something like that. So that could be slightly worrying. But what are your views on Mikhailo Fedorov and what should happen there? Let's have Paul.
Boy, that's, it's a tough one. There's been some news that's come out about Syrskyi after he was removed that, made me question him. I really was a fan, but, I didn't know everything, obviously, in some of that news. Fedorov, I think, had some great vision and, did some great things in terms of maybe turning the production system and the procurement system. But I don't know that he is, the last defense minister only served 6 months. Fedorov only served 6 months. I don't know that you necessarily need to keep these people in position after they achieve maybe what they're motivated and able to do. So, but I'll defer to the Ukrainians. Obviously, they know much more than I do on this. But I think we should give Zelensky's new choice a chance here and see where we go. Right, between Drapati and the new defense minister, how that partnership works and how they move forward.
Yeah, I guess it's just managing people's protesting, because they probably won't be assuaged by that. Like, what do you do? And then do you give into that? And I mean, it's difficult because none of us really know the ins and outs, and you think, oh, I quite like this guy, or I don't like that guy, quite kind of intuitively. You don't really know what's going on, and then there must. Yeah.
Well, and I was going to say, and I'm maybe a little biased because we've been protesting here in the U.S. for, over a year and a half now, and nothing changes here when we protest, right? So it's a very different experience, I think, to be Ukrainian.
Yeah. Well, maybe you should just go and get yourself to the reflecting pool and pick up a bit of paint and see what happens.
Yep.
And then, I don't know, something can happen there. Yeah, so, like, Fedorov, they had, I think, for me, like, if he's got one of the best relationships, or at least he's got a relationship with Elon Musk, just get him in there. Because it turns out, in fact, Pierre, you had a really interesting Telegram post that you shared on the back channels about, and I'm going to bring up the map in a second, about Starlinks. Do you just want to remind us of that, if you can remember it?
Generally it's talking about range cover all over the Azov Sea and the whole of the Black Sea, but also penetrates 30 kilometers within the actual land, the shore.
Yeah.
So that article was saying, Starlinks should work. It's variable, but up to like 30 kilometers off the actual shore, off the Black Sea or the Azov Sea, in Russian territory. Yeah, not Ukrainian.
Yeah. So,
All right.
like, what Ukraine really wants from Russia? Oh, sorry, from Elon Musk. Well, yeah, same thing. From Elon Musk at the moment is the ability to use the Starlink within Russia, right? So they have all of these launchers that are being used north of the border to launch ballistic missiles, and supposedly they're very difficult to pick up on satellite imagery with the satellites, and so they would like to be able to use Starlink operated drones deeper into Russia to be able to take these out. But what we did learn, at least if we can believe this statement today, or this Telegram post that Pierre was talking about, is that Starlinks can be used 30 kilometers into Russian territory, and that's obviously because geofencing, I don't know if it's an exact science or whether they want to give a bit of a leeway for stuff that happens on the contact lines or whatever. But what that generally means, of course, is that Ukraine can use these Starlinks to strike at places, just no, I've just got the wrong thing up. What did I want? I wanted to draw on the map.
Yeah.
Where's my drawing? So sorry, I was just going to say. So basically, you got, I don't know where 30 kilometers is, but they can do that. That's all good and well, brilliant. Okay, north of the border, you can do some nice destruction there. But then what we've seen is that places like Gelendzhik on the Black Sea coast, you've got S-400 systems and these new anti-Starlink systems being taken out, and you're thinking, oh, this is within Russia, and how can, I'm assuming Starlink's playing a role here potentially. How's that happening? Well, the theory is that 30 kilometers not only is going into Russian territory north and east of the border, but it's also going into Russian territory 30 kilometers along the Black Sea. And so Starlink drones actually have the ability to hit along the coastline of the Black Sea, which I think is very, very significant. Anyway, Thank you for pointing that out.
Do you know, I suspect 30 kilometers is like a real max, and it's kind of in between that range. But you can imagine that, Starlink would want to guarantee any ship in that sea is guaranteed for their Starlink to be used,
of course,
to work, right? So, and obviously the coast goes in and out and stuff. I don't know how they draw the line, but I suspect 30 kilometers is like the maximum,
Yeah.
And often it's less than that, but who knows? But
Good
it's
point,
interesting. Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if about 30 kilometers was in from the east from other countries as well, not necessarily along the shoreline, just because of the aviation usage and, as Pierre said, the sea vessels as well. So rather than being a deliberate feature, it's just an accidental thing that's occurred.
Well, yeah, and I guess you need to, if you want Starlink to be universally used by everyone, it needs to be practical, and you don't want black spots, and that makes a lot of sense.
And how accurate is their geolocation of a specific connection? Do they know where it is to 1 kilometer, or is it up to 30 kilometers radius, which might be where this discrepancy comes from.
Good to have people on board for literally on board. That was an accidental pun. Brilliant. I'm so clever. Julian Roster, on a cruise and internet is pants. We'll watch later.
Needs a Starlink.
You need a Starlink. Don't go too close to Gelendzhik, though. You might get hit. Fabulous. I hope you have a wonderful cruise. Michael Vujar from Canada, have some random cash for your next trip. I would love to go to Ukraine again. Just thinking about when that would be and what it might look like. Got a couple of ideas. I know Mark was like, next time it needs to be quick, in and out. We can't bugger about getting loads of content going down to here and there. But then Pierre was like, hey, do you fancy getting a vehicle and going to Kharkiv or something? I'm like, oh, yeah, both of these sound really good. At some point, I'm sure we will attempt to return. So thank you very much, Michael. I really appreciate that. Stephen Bendal, my Norwegian friend, thank you very much for your kindness here. Are Russia producing interceptors at the rate they use them, or spending stockpiles? If so, how long will the stockpiles last? It's going to be cold and dark in Moscow when they run out. I wonder. So, a couple of questions, and actually, Pierre said something about this today that made me wonder. I've been surprised that we haven't seen, and maybe I'm not looking in the right places as a selection bias, but I haven't seen much footage of Russia shooting down Ukrainian drones. Now, if, like last night, so Pierre said, God, didn't hear anything about drones Ukraine used last night. And then the Russians claimed that they had shot down like 960 drones in 24 hours. Now, if that's true, even like if it's true they claim that, but if it's true that they did that, how are they shooting down all these drones, and what they, you know, is it that these drones are getting shot down by interceptor missiles? That's going to be very expensive. Interceptor drones, have they developed at those at scale, or is it mobile fire teams? And Pierre, you were saying that you think maybe mobile fire teams are playing quite a big role because these drones are relatively easy to shoot down, and you know they're coming across the border at certain places, right? Somebody talked about predictability of routes earlier. But I wonder why I haven't seen much footage of Russians doing this, considering they are supposedly shooting down an absolute metric fuck ton, excuse my French, of Ukrainian drones on a nightly basis. Any thoughts on that, guys?
I have one.
Yep.
Quickly, just a short one. I just don't think they show off so much.
This is what I was wondering.
It's one of those military OPSEC things where they're like, there's loads of things they don't show. Like, I'm not saying this is the reason, but it could be one of the reasons, you know.
Yeah.
But then what about civilians recording stuff? And yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I see a fair few, but not like hundreds. Like I don't know. I haven't followed it that much.
It doesn't seem to match up with the sheer numbers that Russia's claiming they're shooting down, that Ukraine is claiming they're firing. If you look at Drone Bomber, every night there's at least, the minimal claim is sort of 350 drones. Yeah. So you're assuming more than that. That's probably at one point, right? So there's probably more in later waves, or I don't know, maybe not. But there's a considerable number of drones, and I've been whinging a lot lately that most of those drones going north of the border are shot down. And if that's the case, like, where is the footage of all that? Considering that in so many other contexts, everyone shows off as much as possible. I don't know, but what is shooting down? So the question here from Stephen was like, are they expending expensive stockpiles? So kind of like what Mark was saying earlier, sending them to Moscow, getting them to expend their stockpiles. Somebody mentioned earlier an S-400 drone being used to take out gimbalers. That's Pierre. Like, what you want is a mismatch there of using expensive interceptors to shoot down cheap drones. But if it's mobile fire teams, then it's a fairly decent way of taking out drones. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I just thought I'd talk. It turns out no one else has anything to say.
It's a fair point.
You're professional now, though, JP.
At talking, 100%. Like, I can't guarantee I make any cogent sense.
Okay. It's bigger. It's a bigger country, less people, and a lot of the drones. Ukrainian strikes to at night time. One of the reasons.
Yeah. So one.
It's not the reason. I'm just trying to find something.
Yeah.
Well,
but that would be a reason that they weren't. Sorry, I was going to say that would be a reason they weren't taken out. Is if it's a big country, fewer people at night. But if they are supposedly getting taken out, then they need to overcome those challenges. Anyway, sorry, Paul, go for it.
No. Well, and I've been off the internet for a few days because I was traveling, so I may be behind, but. We constantly hear about Russia shooting down every drone, but then the refinery is on fire because drone debris fell on it, right? And so I do think maybe Russia, they've shut down Telegram. They're locking down a lot of the news sources. And so I wonder how much damage is happening that we're just not really hearing about, unless it's, a whole Wildberries warehouse burning down or another refinery on fire.
At my most hopeful, I'd agree. But yeah.
I've got to say one quick thing. Sorry, the last Wildberries, Katerinburg, I saw maybe 50 different videos of that being hit, and it didn't even go up in flames. Really, I don't think there's a kind of lack of people sharing things when it's there to be taken. Like, I don't know if that really, if I'm on
Yeah,
point
it
of what
depends
you're
where
saying.
but it depends where
I
the
don't think
targets are.
I don't think it's a discipline like a fear thing or Telegram being shut down, but maybe certain areas it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's nothing
I
I've
guess
seen that would make
I
me
guess
think that.
Wildberries are civilian, essentially. Yeah, they're decent military targets
Point.
because they were supplying equipment, so fair enough, hit them. But they're in civilian areas. Maybe some of these targets that they're trying to reach are more military, and given Russia's size, you don't really need to be near any civilian places. Just a random thought.
Good point. I agree,
Yeah.
Yeah, and
yeah.
I was just going to say that you know one of the reasons could be that some of these targets are out in the middle of nowhere, these military targets, and you in the middle of the night you don't get to see that taking place. But you also don't get. Well, what's interesting is you don't seem to have. Yeah, I've not. Why haven't I thought about this before? With all the strikes inside the Black Sea kind of area, you have FPV video feedback capabilities. But with all the drones that go into Russia, you don't actually get the video feedback from there. Now, what's going on there and why would that be? Is it just the sheer distance that these are plug and play? You know, you put in the coordinates, you send them out, it's not visual. Whereas the FP2s, the FP1s and 2s actually that they use in the Black Sea area these are basically glorified FPV drones.
There's no communication.
Yeah, no Starlink.
Yeah,
there's nothing.
Yeah, that's
you just set the target and then hope it gets there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm stupid. So the pirate says, I have beef, with the countries in NATO that don't see the Ukrainian war as their problem. Oh, we are at the Atlantic, so we don't worry. I get really frustrated when Trump keeps going, it's an ocean away. So he's asked about Russia keeping on hitting Ukraine with ballistic missiles. And he said, yeah, but it's not really our problem. There's an ocean between us. It's like, yeah, there's an ocean between you and Iran, mate. And you seem to give a shit about that. So you can wind your neck in. Anyway, sorry. Planes, get the planes there, says Pirate. Yes, they need more planes. There's no doubt about that. Deb Stuff, hello, says, if NATO gets fed up, strikes back, Russia, we are at war with NATO, mobilizes 500,000 soldiers, but NATO isn't really ready to be at war. Worse for Ukraine. Yeah, and this is a problem that that's a really good point. So when I was asking earlier, what can we do back? NATO doesn't want to say they're at war because then that gives Russia permission to just go to town, and then we're maybe, as she mentions, not ready, and also it could end up being worse for Ukraine. But it's just like no one wants to say they're at war. But the problem is, and this is the dilemma, right? The problem is that Russia can keep pushing the envelope and we'll never react to that because we don't want to go to war with Russia for obvious freaking reasons. But then it just means Russia can just keep prodding, keep probing, keep like moving their planes without transponders into NATO airspace. And then we just have to send sternly worded letters. And yeah, so
I think that's why in the UK, a lot of the attacks the Russians do on critical infrastructure, energy, transportation, it doesn't get announced. It gets completely buried, and nobody's any the wiser to it. They patch the problem, they fix it, and as long as it doesn't last for weeks, then nobody questions it.
Well, the big attack on Jaguar Land Rover that cost freaking billions, right? An absolute ton of money to both Jaguar Land Rover, all its suppliers. Jaguar Land Rover, one of our major manufacturers, was out for however many months because it was attacked, thought to be Russia, and yet that was mentioned a bit on the news, that the fact that it was eventually thought to be Russia. That should just be like, but like what it says, like the reason could be that otherwise we have to deal with it then.
Well, and I'll say this. I spent 25 years working in the auto industry, and I worked with people at Jaguar Land Rover. And in the U.S., I didn't hear that story at all. That never made our news.
Yeah. Huge. It was massive. So Jaguar Land Rover stopped manufacturing within the last year, within the last 6 months, wasn't it? For months and months and months.
Yeah.
But it wasn't massive news in Russia. Yeah, it was a big event, and it cost them billions of pounds, and they're still struggling. But it really wasn't in the news that it was Russia that did it. As Rob says, it's probably because we don't want to have to face up to that. You know, what's your response? Well, if you're shouting that it's Russia, you have to respond.
Yeah.
If you don't shout it's Russia, you don't have to respond.
My point to Deb and to all of this is that we should respond, because not responding means they will go further. They are testing boundaries. They will keep pushing until we have to respond. The earlier you respond and push back firmly, then it will stop.
How do you
they
respond?
Found their boundary.
That
that
should be
far
war.
and no further.
Because that to me is war, right? So here, just for those who don't know, what happened is Jaguar Land Rover experienced a severe cyber attack in late August 2025, shut down global IT networks, halted UK manufacturing plants for 5 weeks, and that includes all their supply and everything, cost the wider British economy an estimated £1.9 billion, so on and so forth. So you've got multiple plants, Solihull, Halewood, Wolverhampton suspending all vehicle managing manufacturing lines, sending staff home, severely disrupting supply chains, right? So that's Russia. Like, that to me is war. Like, that's the same as dropping a bomb on those facilities, right? Knocking the facilities out. So it's functionally the same. That is war. But while I totally understand what you guys saying, like, we should react to that, blah, 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 blah. My question is, how do you react to it? Because, like, it should be like, well, that's war. But then you're like, well, we can't go to war with Russia because
they've got the Russian warships in the channel. It'd be a real shame if one of their propellers got snared, wouldn't it, on some sort of UHPWME fiber or something that's really strong and doesn't break. How awful would that be? Wouldn't it be terrible if we borrowed some Ukrainian sea baby technology, or started to use the ones they are developing now, and started harassing their boats? They're conducting live fire things.
But then that's escalation towards war.
The beautiful city of Portsmouth.
But it's not, JP. It's not, because you do it twofold. You up the ante in terms of the sanctions. You go board the ships, even with that frigate there. If you take along 3 or 4 of our Navy ships to do it, are they really going to fire on you? Is that captain going to make a decision that could take their country to war with NATO? No, he won't. He will maybe fire a couple of warning shots, but he won't actually do it. It's like they won't go to nuclear. It won't happen. I really cannot see it happening. But if you sit back and just take it, then they'll just push it and push it and push it. You've got to draw a red line. You've got to stand up. As Dan says, stand up to the bully. If you don't stand up to the bully, if you don't stand up to the bully, he will just keep on bullying, and he'll keep on upping the ante.
It's a delicious situation for the Russians to be in, quite frankly, because the Russians have got free reign because they know that we like the West, NATO, whatever, Europe, are not going to want to take bite at that hook, and so they will just keep pushing. So
but it's psychologically stupid of us to do all of this hand wringing. If you've got an opponent and you're convinced they're a mad psychopath, you're not very likely to provoke them, right, with a stick. If you've got an opponent that's a really wet blouse, you're more likely to take the mick, aren't you? It's so obvious to me. It's so basic. I'm not a warmonger. I don't want to go to war with Russia at all. But the best way of stopping it is to react harder sooner.
But I guess my point is technically, exactly what does that look like? Like, I know in principle it's easy for us to sit here, or for you to sit here and say, hey, we need to react harder. But actually, I know that you guys just mentioned about like boarding the ships, and that is kind of the thing I'm talking about. Like, what are the actual tangible things that can be done that aren't already being done? Because we were pretty much maxing out sanctions, and we'll add things to them. But really, I think it's stuff like boarding ships and doing it in a much more risky manner is perhaps like one of the few things that we can do without actually.
Can't we start doing some joint exercises in Moldova and start putting some pressure on Transnistria? I'm not an expert. I'm not a geostrategist, but I'm sure I could come up with lots of ideas for other people to shoot down to get back at Russia. They've got their weak points. Apply pressure to them.
Totally agree.
I think we lost JP, or is it me?
No, I'm here. I can hear you.
Sorry, your picture froze. I don't know whose internet it was.
Yeah. So I guess what we have done, the Russians down, and I really appreciate how much pressure we're putting on them, is allowed them back into the Olympics and into the boxing
unforgivable.
and into the That's been really strong.
I wrote, I don't know, one of the first ones was the fencing allowed them back in, and I wrote a sternly worded email, you know, and then posted it somewhere. I think I still had a Twitter account. I had to remove it because I'm going to America. There's no way they'd have let me in with the things I've said about Trump.
And my days going to America are done for the next couple of years.
It's a work thing. I have to go, and I'm just like, I wasn't planning on visiting until that man was out.
I don't know quite why the pirate has indicated that I should get a dog or an otter. I can understand a dog, but that's a random thing. It's good for the health to get an otter. Everyone needs an otter. Absolutely, pirate. I'm not going to contest that claim. Viggo, didn't the UK deliver huge octocopters? This is when Pierre was talking about, medevac and stab points that could be used to evacuate wounded personnel. We did. It was called it begins with M. Not the Martlet. It was anyway. It was an octocopter, and I think we've got a number of them too there, but I don't know. I know they've. I think they might have developed some of their own as well. Really big octocopters that can pick up entire bodies. But the problem is, of course, you start flying a big drone like that with an injured body attached to it, and all the FPV drones in the area are just going to be like, "Oh, hello, we'll take that out." That's going to be target number one. So it comes with its own risks, of course. And just finally for the super chats, thank you, Jerry Krause. Cheers, guys. Cheers to you all the way in the Czech Republic, Czechia, as it is now called. So I'm going to now move to drinking a little bit of red wine, which here's one I prepared earlier. So thank you. Cheers, everybody.
I'm going to get a can.
No, my peers, my others. For goodness sake, it's going to go on. What I just would like to know, so I know Rob is from the West Country. So for those in Europe and further afield, Rob lives in the west of the UK, and I will show you on the ATP Geopolitics map what that means. So if you come from the West Country, instead of taking instead of this is a West Country over here, sort of Cornwall and Devon, Somerset. He lives up sort of Bristol, in Bristol, which is so that's why he speaks in a little bit of a West Country lilt. And basically, what that means is people like Rob, and this includes Rob, instead of taking breast milk on as infants and babies, they actually take on cider. And as a result, they are like, I think something like at least 37% apple in their bloodstream, because if you do it for that long, that's anyway. So he's drinking cider, so we can pretty much forget him. I mean, what else is there? He says I can't literally. I tried to buy milk earlier at my local one stop, and I could only buy cider.
I thought Mark could appreciate that.
What are you drinking?
Oh, I'm drinking, and I know I'm opening the bottle, but that's because I bought another one from the little whiskey shop.
It's lovely,
man. Mark he just speaks to you for a couple of minutes, and he goes, "Yeah, this is the one for you," and they're banging every time.
What whiskey?
Use the little whiskey shop people. I have no vested interest in it.
Cheers, Dan. Apart from drinking it when I sell it to you.
This one, okay, I'll mispronounce it. Kalila. There's none of this left though, so you'll have to find something else. I think I got the last two bottles, didn't I?
You did, and I was gutted because I wanted to open one myself.
There you go.
Because mine emptied, it evaporated.
Yeah, as it does, Mark. Of course, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The Angels took too much of their share again.
It's hot weather. It just evaporates through the cork. Paul, what are you? I'm not that I'm suggesting we should all be drinking alcohol. There are other drinks available and drunks available. Paul, what are you imbibing?
Well, so let me start by saying I went to a wedding last night and got a bit into my cups. So today I'm drinking, I don't know if you guys have this in Europe. It's called Athletic Light. It's actually a non-alcoholic beer that actually tastes like beer. So it's actually like if you're in my kind of situation today, it's a good thing to drink.
Well, I find that I try and drink more non-alcoholic beers more often, but sometimes they're just too malty. For those in the UK, they taste a bit like Ovaltine or Horlicks, which are these malt drinks that you can get, and sometimes they're just overly malty. But then sometimes they nail it, and it's a bit of hit and miss. So Athletic Light,
I would. It is a bit of hit or miss. I agree with that, and I actually like this one. So yeah.
happy days. Pierre, what are you imbibing?
I have been drinking because I just got back from work and had an aperitif.
And he can say that because he lives in France, right? Is that? Oh no, not Rick. No, it's not Pernod.
Oh, I can't.
Freaking hate Pernod, and I also hate anyone that drinks.
It's not Pernod, mate. Pernod's
is
sweet
that Ricard?
shit. Ricard's the genuine. It's
Is
the
that
one that sponsors the
still?
song.
Is it? I watched. It was a clip that just came on Facebook or Twitter or something the other day, and it was like the World Championship final pétanque, right? And this guy just laid some really high one, and it's dropped in, and he won the whole thing on it, and they all went mental. I was like, and it was in a stadium. It was in like a small grandstand stadium. I'm like. For those who don't know what pétanque is, it's like big metal balls, where it's like boule or big metal balls that you throw, try and get close to the jack, and basically you play on the beach with your mates, or if you're in France, you play it as just instead of drinking instead of drinking cider, they play pétanque, and then probably drink cider as well. And and so anyway,
Ricard is the main sponsor. Yeah,
is it aniseed? Is it aniseed?
Yeah, it's aniseed flavor. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just pretty evil. So you're wrong on. So Pierre's the biggest wrong on here. What are you drinking, Mark?
Yeah.
Are you drinking a crow as well? As they say in France, a crow. Crow, yeah.
C'est 64. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
64.
Yeah. Mark.
You know your French numbers.
I'm out. I'm just about to dash off to get something because now it's going on. I was on a bit of red wine, but yeah, apparently I had the last of it. And I've been prodding the wife, but she's not come back in, so I'm gonna have to go and get my own now.
You're ringing the bell. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Come on.
I'm pinging her on WhatsApp saying, "Come on, where's my drink? Where's my drink?"
This is a society we live in now that occasionally, if Helen's upstairs in bed or something, I'm downstairs. I'll be like sending her a message on WhatsApp, like, what is going on? Like, come on, it's not like we live in a mansion or anything. No, we do actually. Everyone in England lives in a mansion, don't you know? Anyway, I don't know where we have got to. Let's just go back to our trip to Ukraine a little bit, guys. I don't know. It seems like such a long time ago. Is there anything that you can remember that you were particularly touched by, or you remember very vividly, or that you appreciated or enjoyed or found fascinating or disappointing or was scared or whatever? We were really lucky, by the way, when we went there, because there was a massive drone and missile attack before we went there and a massive one just after we left. And we were lucky and hit the sweet spot of not being too much in danger when we went, even though we were in all the major, not all the major, we were Lviv, Kiev and Odessa. But any observations, guys, that you want to make?
I find the field of Mars particularly touching. I mean, sometimes when you're behind the camera, you're not necessarily focusing on what's happening on the other side. But when we bumped into the two mothers, we told you the story about their child, and they were so proud of their two children. I think we filmed the one mother, but that was particularly touching.
That was lovely in the field of Mars, and here is one of Pierre's photos from the experience. So it's just the sheer volume of flags and graves for the fallen heroes there, billowing in the wind or blowing lightly in the wind. Just a tremendously evocative place. In fact, sorry, Rob. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think it's important to say that we didn't go there trying to get an interview.
No,
the whole purpose of it was just to film the area, get some comments from JP. And then it happened to be JP sat down at a grave to look at the grave there, and the mothers came over, and they wanted to speak to us. They wanted to share the photos, share the stories.
You can go and look at that video as well. If you go back a few months to when we were there in May and look at all the videos, and I have to say thank you to Rob, who put together these videos really quickly and adroitly, and really good. Oh, Pierre, you're getting some love here. I thank you, Rob, for helping out with that a lot. And yeah, it was emotional, that. And the second time I went to Ukraine, I think it was the second time I went to the Field of Mars in Lviv as well. And it was the second time. We were all there. Well, most of us were there. Rob, you went with us the first time, and Paul obviously not. But I was insanely emotional, and it was when I heard just the wailing of this mother who was crying over her dead son, I presume son, and it just went right through you, and it kind of hit home as how the pointlessness of this war, really, in terms of what Russia's trying to achieve, and the waste of life. I don't mean waste from a Ukrainian point of view, of course. They're fighting for their homeland, for their family, and culture and everything, but just it shouldn't need to happen, and yet it is happening, and just it really, really affected me, and I was in all sorts of trouble. And that first time we went round, but this time round, yeah, those two mothers, it was really lovely, because we weren't trying to be exploitative, as you say, and I think that's really important to point out. That's not the kind of people we are. But that they, do you know, at some point people want to talk about she was clearly proud of her child, right? And she wants to share that pride and show you videos on her phone, as she was doing, of who her child was and what he was doing. And we were there to listen. And if we had a camera, then we are showing that to the world. And that is just amplifying her sense of pride, hopefully. And so I think we helped her in some way there, and that I think is pretty positive. Sorry
I think it was interesting. So it's interesting because the two were very different. One
Mark,
clearly didn't want to.
I can hear Mark.
Oh, can you? Oh, my sound's gone again. I'm going to drop off and come back because that sorted it last time.
Okay.
So one of them was very much not wanting too emotional, and too hurt, too upset by it. The other one was very much, yes, here's my son. He captured a Russian captain and all the rest of it, and she appreciated that we were there for the right reasons in trying to push that. But I was sort of trying to comfort the other lady who was very distraught. And funny, very emotional. And the difference, we all go around the war cemeteries, from the First World War and the Second World War and the rest of it, and it's very, very different going there. You still get very moved and very emotional doing it, but because it's so fresh, because you've got people there mourning for people who've lost very, very recently, it just drives it even harder into you. And I shed a few tears, I have to say, each time I went. I'm not ashamed to say it.
And the photos have a big impact on that, I think.
Well, oh, sorry, the photos on the
graves. Sorry, yeah. It's just,
It's so personal.
You have that instant. Whether it's them in civilian life or military life, it's just, very.
It's a connection.
Yeah.
It's very much they are, human, and you can see who they were, and
exactly.
Yeah, it's an incredible experience. So, anyone else have any observations, anything that touched them, they found that they can remember with great clarity, or that moved them, or angered them, or surprised them? Any observations from you?
Yeah, I'm sure we all have. But one night I'll never forget is the night. It's the day we met Paul, and we went to the jobby, to the what do you call it, restaurant?
The Partisan restaurant.
Partisan restaurant, and it was all so manic because there's so many people there. There's like Dusty, like he was in the Spear, Eddie, and Paul, and then Dana turned up, who I never thought would do, who I'm kind of emotionally involved in, like just because we shared certain experiences. yeah, it's just great. And then to actually party after it, like in it sounds a bit odd on, I've never experienced that. I've been in Ukraine for probably over or near a year. I've never really counted in the last 4 years, and just to have that kind of crazy fun night, really. That it wasn't all fun. It just ended up like a proper, like, I don't know, it's like a bloody stag do or something.
Yeah, it was this really
funny.
weird situation where we had
And
delivered
for
the
Richard,
cards.
yeah, sorry, I just got
Sorry.
to say, and for Rich, who doesn't really socialize that much at all in Lviv, it was quite a special night for him. I noticed that, like,
Richard
it
Woodruff
kind of,
talking about.
yeah, it kind of took him away from the war for a night, which he's very much involved in that war, as we
He
know. Like,
absolutely loved. We basically we
yeah,
delivered the vehicles, and one of the nights in Lviv, we only had a few nights at each place. We're like, right, we delivered the actually it was the day we delivered the amazing generators that Rob had sourced for us. Rob's other half had actually sourced, and he had helped hugely with and got that sorted. So we took out these 3 generators. Rob part donated his truck as well, and we done, and then we took out 3 other trucks, so 4 trucks, and then we delivered all this stuff, and then Dana, who was in charge of this place where we gave the generators, she then came out to the mill with us, and we had Richard Woodruff there. We had Eddie and his
Dusty,
mate Dusty
yeah,
from the foreign legion, was it the international
yeah,
legion? Sorry,
it's in Spirit as well, yeah.
yeah, and all of us there, and it was just a lovely release for us all. We were in, and at that restaurant there was and they go and play there, and obviously they get their little. They get their Harivnias for doing like little folk songs. There's this old, like 90-year-old accordion player and this woman, and they were belting out. And we had not Arena, who was it from Jigger's Paw was also there, and she was singing
Yes,
along with the traditional
brilliant.
songs, and it was
Yeah.
absolutely lovely. It was like the whole like traditional Ukrainian thing, but
Yeah.
all of us there as kind of Brits abroad, if you like, and Paul and Dusty as Americans, and then we were just sharing like wonderful times and like, a shared common experience and morality really of us all being there. And then we went out from there afterwards, and Rich was like, let's go and have some more beers. And Lviv at the time, it was really warm. It was May, and it was like you could excuse yourself for thinking the war wasn't on. And then we were at this other bar later, and the air raid alarms were going off, and you're thinking, oh, right, okay, yeah, no, I remember this is a country at war. But when you're that far west from the front lines, you can imagine that there must be this tension between people that live and work every day and experience the war a lot less, although Lviv is routinely targeted, but a lot less than people will do, obviously, in, say, Odessa, certainly Kharkiv, and then obviously places like Sloviansk and Kramatorsk, completely different experience. So, yeah, but that was a very memorable night. Sorry, I've been waffling.
No.
What got me was we arrived, because we arrived in Kiev the morning after they'd taken out the museum, and what got me was that everyone was out on the streets clearing up. There were people, the carpenters were there were putting up the wooden boards. The queue in that shop, the pastry coffee shop, where they'd opened up the night before, the day before, and then it got blown up the following day. And there were I think you guys queued for about an hour and a half, 2 hours to go in, and Giron bought every single cake they had, pretty much.
Yeah, JR, and a big love to JR, who's not here, by the way.
Yeah,
but yeah.
And it was just that that spirit of, right, okay, bombs hit here, clear it up, let's get on with it, and make the place look good again as best we can. Obviously, we had the fact that the windows were blown out and stuff. It was just that spirit of we've got to get this sorted, and I just loved that. It's the Blitz. It was that the spirit that we're not gonna give up. We're just gonna get on with life. Loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was it was an incredible experience there. And here you can see what some photos Pierre took of like literally the cleanup operation days after this has happened. As Mark said, there was a coffee shop where the guy had sold his house. He and his wife had sold their house, opened this coffee shop, and on the day he opened the coffee shop, it got slammed and massively damaged. And they opened it up the next day, and there was a throng of people that went there to support the place and buy a coffee. And we were there, I think, the second day after this happened. And we, as you mentioned, we queued for like an hour or whatever to get our teas and coffees. And JR very kindly bought an absolute ton of cakes. Bought them out of cakes essentially. But the cleanup operations that were taking place involving local people, but also the professionals who are now quite used to doing this. And I wouldn't say it's like clockwork, but they they know what they're doing. The tractors are in, probably farmers' tractors are in, clearing up big pieces of stuff. You got your glaziers, you got your boards going up, you got they are now sadly very used to dealing with these sorts of strikes and clearing them up quickly so that normal life can resume, because that's really, really important. Anyway, some great photos here from Pierre as ever. And I don't know what they say, but it just that was
that was under you.
That's all we had to put up with.
Let's talk through that.
Sorry,
can I say something?
Yeah, Pierre. Because to me, that was one of the most remarkable achievements. I wish Dan was still here, because above that gentleman was JP, and we all thought we'd be on bottom bunks of the train, and me and Dan just went off for a quick smoke, and we were supposed to help you up to your bed, and we came back and suddenly you were on your bed.
It was honestly, I can't tell you how difficult that was.
And
my
legs so hot.
It's so difficult to get up these things, and I had this.
I struggled myself.
It was really difficult, and it took me an awful long time. But it was also stiflingly hot. And this is literally, we just got on a train, and this is opening the door, and you're like, I'm sharing a room with this man. Awesome, just in his pants. Lovely. What an experience.
So good.
Brilliant. Yeah. Anyway, good times. Good times. And then you were off having a cigarette down at another carriage or whatever, Pierre, and you brought back this doctor who was a bit half cut, right? A Ukrainian doctor, and this was on the train into Moldova, and we were having this big old chat. But I find that quite interesting, because he was like really against corruption, and this was at the time when there's the whole corruption scandal going on. And he was really critical of Zelensky. And it's very interesting, because when you're an outsider, there's generally a very positive view, pretty much in abroad of Zelensky. But of course, inside Ukraine, it's very complex and nuanced. And there are going to be some people who are massive supporters of Zelensky and others who are not. And it's really interesting getting that kind of sense of variation in the population. But unfortunately no Benny tonight. I've been unable to get hold of him. He has been very busy. He's trying to move house at the moment in order to move to Ukraine, which talking about putting money where your mouth is. So he is feverishly working to a deadline at the moment, and that could be why I've been unable to get hold of him all day today. I keep though looking to the right and seeing that, and I must stop doing that, because it's
click on.
Click on. Okay, so there are more pictures. Oh yeah, now we're back to what I was. That one of the guys in his pants was just in the middle of all of these. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, yellow and blue. That's brilliant. So evocative.
That's like the fourth floor. He's on the fourth floor. Yeah.
Great stuff.
Can I say another thing about the trip? Sorry. Just how well it went, how well it organised, and just 100%. How, because it's the first time I've done it with you guys, and thanks to Mark for a lot of that, and also just a massive thanks to Dan and to everyone, but to Dan and Rob, who are just crazy generous with everything. Very generous guys. Yeah. And I also want to lead on to Odessa, if we're still on the moments. This was my moment, because it was my birthday and stuff. which was a great night. It was great to see Jonathan Fink. It was real, nice to see Odessa. Like lots of people enjoying themselves. But one of the most striking things for me in Ukraine was walking back and then sat outside the coffee shop, hotel, whatever it was, and just I've never known such silence in Ukraine. And like I said, I've spent probably a year there in the last 4 years. It's just the most quiet night that I've ever known. And then, sorry, this leads on to, then I watched the video that you did in the coffee shop with the lady, which I thought was really good. And I really appreciate Rob for everything he did on this trip.
Yeah,
But it kind of triggered that. A lot of that's to do with men, the whole mobilization thing. It kind of, those things kind of clicked a bit. How quiet Odessa was. Sorry, is that me?
No.
I don't know if you heard any of that.
You. No, absolutely heard all of that. It was you were spot on there, Pierre, and with all of your observations, and everyone was supremely generous in their own ways. Like, what an amazing bunch of people. Mark with his incredible organizational skills, Benny Pie also helping out with that. He knows his hotel booking and whatnot, and knowing the trains and all of those, and Pierre, your stuff. Rob, just a super generous guy, and then helping with the cameras and everything. Dan just is again super generous. Just everyone. Mike, who came with us last minute, pretty much, just absolute legend as well.
Brilliant.
And I just remember we were all, because basically I'm a useless cripple, right? I was relying on everyone else to help me around and everything. And we were in Kiev at the hostel in Kiev, and I was we were like, right, we've got to get a load of Bolts, which is like Ubers, a load of Bolt cars, and we've got to get to the train station. We've got to get there for this time. So we all got out, and I'm basically pushed around, and then people look after my bags and whatnot, which is poor, because I then stop being attentive and like thinking, where's my bag? We get to the station, everyone's like, right, we all got our bags. JP, where's your bag? And I'm like, well, I don't know. And I just completely deferred responsibility to other people, which is utterly irresponsible of me. And then, so we're like, oh my God, I think my whole suitcase is on the side of the road in Kiev, outside the hostel, like on a main kind of like part of Kiev and whatnot. And you're like, oh my God. So Dan, being the legend he is, have I not even let him back in? He's just waiting patiently. Oh my God, I didn't even realize he was there, but he's listening. He's just been in the dream.
I just
like half an hour,
and suddenly everyone starts blowing smoke up my backside. Enjoying it.
Yeah. Well, so Dan then jumped in another Bolt and drove all the way back to the hotel, and we had to get on this train. Right, there's like the sleeper trains are booked up in advance. We'd already had our fingers burnt with one experience with that. And so we're like, you've got to get on the sleeper trains. So like he drove back to the hostel, and it was still there, sitting outside the hostel, sitting on the road, basically in the middle of the road, almost cobbled street.
The crazy bit about that was, about 2 minutes from the hotel, we got pulled over by a Ukrainian checkpoint. Right? They're checking the papers of the cab driver, and they're checking mine, and I have no idea to this day whether the Ukrainian guard that pulled us over at the checkpoint understood English, or just the sheer panic on my face as I kind of showed him my British, passport, and was just like, we have a train, we have to catch it, I have to get my friend's suitcase, he's disabled, please help and just let us go. And I think it was probably the British passport, but he just waved us on. And I was like, thank goodness, because that's not a time you want to be pulled over, right? When you've got, what was it, half an hour to get there and back. That was fun.
Those Ubers are an absolute nightmare. You order the big Uber that's meant to take sort of 6 people, and it'll turn up and it would only take 3 if you're lucky, and one suitcase, and it's like, mad.
Well, sorry, carry on.
No, I just like memories, and going back, the Atomic Museum that had been bombed, we went back there later that evening. As the people watching will get the idea that, you know, in the evening we like to have a beer or a drink after the day's done. So we went down to the supermarket to get some beers. This was just Rob. Was it you and me, I think, and Mike maybe. We
Possibly.
just I was waiting for the other two, and I just got chatting to some 16-year-olds who sort of came and saw whatever T-shirt I had on. Like, I have so many the Ukrainian T-shirt type things. Saw it, and they asked us, you know, hey, what are you doing here? And then they were just, I don't know, they were like 16, 17, and they were so happy and couldn't believe that people had come from England to, like, you know, provide them help. And their flat was literally on the opposite, on the other side of the street from the place that had just been bombed 2 days before. They're showing me all the pictures they had on the phone. But I mean, I could only describe them as ecstatic that people were there helping them, and that's, you know, that's not some kind of, oh, I'm a savior, that's, you know, complex that you're getting the stuff. They were just so genuinely happy. And
Do you remember when
every
we
time
do you remember
that we go over there and provide aid or do anything positive for Ukraine, it's not just the material, it's the hope and the fact that they're not alone. And that's just really important to keep doing it, and not just to rely on governments to send a few billion quid. Those personal gestures of everything that you do, the people watching this and giving stuff, it really matters. When people find out about it, they are, you know, blown away. It means something. It means a lot to them.
But Dan, do you remember we went to we were in Moldova, and we went to the winery, the vineyard, and we were getting an Uber back, and the guy was Ukrainian, and he utterly refused to take payment. Right. He just went, no, you know, we were just chatting about what we're doing out there, etc. And he said, well, thank you. And as a thank you, I'm not letting you pay. And we're like, no, honestly, we want to pay you. And he was just like, no, you're showing support to my country, and I appreciate that. And it is that. And that's what kind of drives me, is that, I hope that the very small things that we can do actually means something to people, and I really wish we could do a lot more, but with that feedback, and as you're showing there, that the lovely lady from the coffee shop, she was again kind of blown away at the fact that we're out there trying to support him and trying to promote it, and doing what little we can to try and put a positive message across to JP's audience. And get people in the UK to understand, in USA, etc., to understand all around the world, to understand there is a war going on there, and we can all help out in our own little way. And the support that everyone on this channel gives is phenomenal. The fact that what you're now, your 10th car or something, JP, it's just phenomenal. What's been achieved.
And I love this, and I have to appreciate Rob for this, because we were just getting coffee in here, and Rob was like, mate, you are here to do to get content and stuff. Like, I just don't think about these things, so I'm just like, oh, let's have a cup of tea, let's have a little wander around, let's fumble my way around some coffee shop randomly in Odessa. And Rob's like, mate, do you want to interview her? I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's a great idea, yeah, I'll do that, yeah, that's good. And then of course it presented this wonderful opportunity of just getting an insight into the life of someone that's trying to run a business in Odessa, and what her thoughts were, and what her plans and dreams were or weren't. And so I thought, that was really interesting, and thank you, Rob, for helping with that. But as you guys have said, everyone played their own role in doing a wonderful job here. And Pierre's spot on. Like, you've got, I don't know, how was it 8 of us, 8 people going into 12 countries in 10 days, right? Which is an immense logistical feat, or 10 countries in 12 days, 10 countries in 12 days, immense logistical feat. And apart from leaving my suitcase that then actually got found by Dan, there was no hiccup, and we went into a freaking war zone effectively, right? And everything went clockwork. It was, and so hats off to you guys for making that happen. It was just astounding. We got to meet James from the Azov Battalion, International Battalion, and got to deliver him BME's gift that he had sorted, and and again, like even that, like getting a frequency analyzer and a battery welder. BME got on a train across the south coast of the UK, so like to come to my town, and I met him there, and we went out for a coffee and whatever, and he gave me this stuff, just like the dedication of you guys in the audience, not only to fund, to raise the funds for this stuff, but to go out of your way to be generous. And BME's, I think, possibly in hospital at the moment. He's got some serious like health issues and whatnot, so big love to him. But just wonderful community that is around around this channel, but around not just this channel, just around Ukraine in general, with just people who have their hearts in the right place, their minds in the right place as well. That I just it blows me away, and it allowed us to go to Ukraine and show our appreciation, but on behalf of everyone in the audience. So just massive thanks to everyone.
Yeah.
I'm sent.
So is there anything else to add? I've still got some wine left in my glass, so
Well, maybe I'll tell one story, and I won't copy some of the comments that were already made about the field of Mars or whatever, because obviously those are just incredibly powerful. But I was in the Amsterdam airport flying home, and I bumped into a couple other people from Michigan. We started talking, and I was in my Car for Ukraine gear, and so they asked me what I was doing, and I explained it to them. And it was a great conversation. And then we were getting in line to board the plane, and this woman came walking up to me, and she just held up her Ukrainian passport. And I tried to explain to her, I'm not Ukrainian and whatever. And she didn't speak very good English. And I pulled out my Google Translate and, just said, hey, I'm just a volunteer and whatever. And then she just gave me the biggest hug, like the kind of hug your mom gives you when you haven't seen her in a long time. And I honestly, I just stood there dumbfounded, and she just walked away from me after that. She had to go to wherever she was going in the airport. And to your point about the people, I feel like, when people ask me what I do when I go to Ukraine, I'm like an Uber driver, right? All I do is deliver a truck. It's not like heroism. I just drive a truck. That's all I do. But I think it to the people that I've met in Zaporizhia and Mykolaiv and Izum, these places, right, to have somebody come from the West and show up, I think just being there matters. And I think, Dan, you said it really well. It's powerful. And I think we personally, I plan on trying to keep going back, if for no other reason, right? I'll drive a truck and I'll shake somebody's hand.
You've got to join us for the next trip, Paul. We've got to make that happen, guys. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, well said, Paul. That's wonderful. And I virtue signal all the time, right? I've got a freaking like Ukrainian flag out like in my window in the front of my house, right? And like that's really positive virtue signaling, because I want to tell the world, look, this is what I stand for. And if you guys disagree, come and have at it. Like, and if you agree, let's have some mutual love. And I know that I showed like the magnetic transfer that JR sorted out for all the cars. Paul, you took a couple. I love you. You sent me a photo. I should have shown that on my channel. Actually, you sent me a photo of putting that on your car, because you took a couple back, which is awesome. Absolutely love that. But we've all got these experiences, haven't we? In the live chat, I'm sure you guys will add to them. But I would just remember many, like on holiday last year, of all places, Dominican Republic. We save up all year to go on like 2 weeks to a nice place. And like I'm a cheap guy most of the year, right? I don't do a lot. I don't leave the house, and then we just we take the boys to a nice resort and just relax for 2 weeks. And I don't relax, and then I do videos all morning while I'm away. Ellen just like, oh, for fuck's sake. But anyway, that's who I am. But I was wearing my ATP Geopolitics, that grey one you saw me just wearing in a video there. And last year, and this guy and his wife, he was Ukrainian, she was American, and he lived in America. But he was like, no, it's my cap that I was wearing that he is like, oh my god. And we stopped and we had 20-minute conversation, and he was just like absolutely made up that here we are in this resort in the Dominican Republic, and you've got a guy who is like virtue signaling his love for Ukraine. Like, yep, I'm proudly wearing my freaking cap, my t-shirt. I don't care if I'm on holiday, and it shouldn't be about politics and whatnot. Stick it up your ass. Anyway, there it is. And it was just lovely to have those interactions, and we've all had them, whether it's in a local coffee shop or on holiday or whatever. And I'm here for it.
I don't know if it's a particularly sort of British thing of, oh, you don't talk about the work you do for charity. You know, that's distasteful, right? It's your personal thing. And you don't. But with Ukraine, it's different, and you should talk about it, and you should broadcast it, because people need to know. As Mark said, I've had similar comments, right? Is that still going on? People, you know, just doing anything that can start that conversation and making people aware, getting some of your passion, because anybody watching this, right, 2 hours in, is super passionate about Ukraine.
It takes a certain person to be serious.
Dan, I think
every t-shirt I think that, you know, I think I have like 3 t-shirts left now that don't have some link to Ukraine on them, right? And it's just like all the time, any excuse to talk about it, I'm in there. And I think
a hairdresser absolutely was shocked about, or no, regretted saying, "Oh, is it still going on?" half an hour later,
quickly shaving the rest of it. Come on, how quickly can I get? Can I just show you, like, you guys, you're so fancy. Like, this is my haircut, and it was my missus today with a razor, and there you go, grade 3 all over, and it cost me precisely. It cost me a little bit of time with my missus, so happy days. I'm made up, but that's the extent of my haircuts these days.
I had a grade 2 before I went to Spain in the heat wave, because I just like, you've got a motorcycle helmet, right? You need as much airflow going through it as possible when you're motorcycling in Spain. And it's just been growing out since then, so I don't think I'm particularly flash. It's probably been about 2 months since I've had a haircut.
Well, I don't think we're all particularly flash, apart from the young and Rob. I mean, he still goes out raving in Bristol. Like, if I remember him recounting his youthful exuberance.
I think Dan does as well.
Sasha Digweed's on in Cardiff in November, Rob, and they're only on the second tranche of tickets. Get one, I'm off. That'll be awesome.
Let's go.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness!
What I did miss was Fink of his stories of his growing up in Russia. Some of those stories were just outrageous.
Jonathan Fink is a dark horse, that man. So when we went the second time, I'll call it Ukraine 2.0. So the one we went on, all of us, was 3.0. I went on 2.0 with Mark and Pierre and Dan for a little bit of it, and then he wimped out. And then, but I'll tell you, one night where we had a few wines with I forget where we were. I think it might have been Poland actually on the way back, and yeah, I think it was Krakow. And Jonathan Fink was regaling us with tales of his youth, and I'm like, holy cow, you are a dark horse, young man. You are dark.
Yeah, he gives off being very very upper class and very 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 posh and all that, but underneath he's a dirty booger.
He's a lad. So anyway, we're not casting aspersions on JF. He's a legend.
So we did have a great evening with JF and Sabrina in the Georgian restaurant for Pierre's birthday. That was a real good time.
That was Pierre. Talk to us a little bit about that, because you I think I remember, and you mentioned it tonight, that you were quite like, you appreciated that, which is nice, because we were like, oh, when's Pierre's birthday? We got to Pierre. It was like we kept being reminded by Benny, like we've got to remember Pierre's birthday's this night, and it was pretty nice. We had a nice Georgian meal, and it was all good.
Oh, you dropped me right in it though, didn't you, JP, that night? Do you remember that? No. So I drove in the same car as Jonathan Fink on 2.0, right?
I did, yeah.
And so I did most of the driving, because Jonathan was like editing videos. He had one with Ben Hodges that he was sorting out on the trip, and I'm more than happy to be like, doing the driving and helping that out.
So this is Ukraine 2.0.
I didn't know who he was before, right? I hadn't watched Silicon Curtain, but we had a great old chat. Fantastic time. hadn't spoken to him since or had any contact since. I waved goodbye because I did go early, but that was so that I could spend my other week delivering aid to Ukraine in a separate trip, right? So that's why I get so outraged by JP's needling. Anyway, so I turn up at the restaurant, see Jonathan Vick, first time in a year, and I've got his book, Dark Heart of Russia. Get it? Good book. And I'm like, oh, man, can you sign it? And I could tell in his eyes, right, he's forgotten my name. Because he, why wouldn't you? He's a busy guy. He's constantly interviewing people. Yeah, great book. And I can see him going, well, what should I write? And I'm going, oh, he's forgotten my name. This is quite funny. Whatever you want, that's fine. So he comes back with something like, you're a great humanitarian or something like that. And I read this and I went to JP later on that night, he's forgotten my name. That's really funny. And then JP immediately goes up to him and goes, I forgot his name when I was dying of embarrassment.
Yeah,
but I did
you forgot Dad's name, you loser.
Art.
I have no problem in
so I now
dropping
have a big cock and balls in my book and written to I think I said just sign it to Bob.
Brilliant. There's a photo of that. There's a really good photo of it.
There is. All your photos are great, Pierre. You capture.
Of course they are. Yeah.
Pierre just wanders off on these trips and comes back. You've seen the reportage. We've already seen a few of them. They are just stunning, man. You've got such a good eye for photos. I'm a cretin when it comes to those.
I think this is the is this the meal? This might well be the meal.
Yeah.
That's in Moldova.
No, that's Moldova.
Yeah.
But then we've got Think here, so that's the night.
Yeah, that's that night.
Yeah, that was the night.
Go back one.
There
it is.
That's the one.
There's the one.
You can probably see the writing.
Jonathan Fink drawn cock and balls into Bob.
He literally did. Oh my god, absolutely fabulous.
Shame. Yeah. And
there we were after quite a night out.
We?
Yeah, absolute class act.
That was Benny. Yeah, JR
Alex Ferguson. That's Alex Ferguson now. I need to interview him actually. He was fascinating to sit next to and talk to you about drones.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was lovely. Good catch there.
Yeah, the piano. Do you remember the piano on the top of the overlooking the river? Oh, that was just awesome.
Oh,
the pianist
in Kiev. Yeah. But,
that's great.
We've got that on one of my videos. So that is, we've got an excerpt of that on one of my videos. It's lovely. And then I didn't know what it was, right? And I was saying and speaking to Rob, and he was like, so there's this young kid, maybe 17, maybe 18, playing the piano in this pagoda overlooking Kiev, outdoor piano, just like in the park there. And Rob was like, I think that's the theme tune for Interstellar. And he said, you should go and tell him, because someone said something to me the other day, and it was what was it? I can't remember. It's a lovely pithy little maxim. It was like, you should always tell something. You should always tell someone something, or whatever it is. It was something like, if you're thinking it, you should tell it. Like if it's positive, and I always and I'm big on that, which is like, show your appreciation to someone, because it makes someone feel better about themselves. Like it's just like make people feel better. I keep saying to one of my sons, like, did when we've had this conversation, mate, do you think the person you just spoke to like felt better about life after this conversation? You always got to try and make sure that when you're interacting with people, that they just feel better about life than before you started, type thing. Try and have that. Trying to teach my sons lessons for life. But like, so I was saying to Rob, go and tell him that you recognise that's Interstellar. He's like, oh no, I can't do that. I was like, fuck it, I'll do it then. So I went up and I didn't have a clue what freaking song it was. I was like, oh mate, was that the theme tune to Interstellar? He's like, oh yeah. Yeah, it was. Oh, that's absolutely amazing, mate. It's like as if I knew what I was talking about. But it's like the lesson there is like, give someone the recognition, like make them feel like he'll be like, oh yeah, he recognized that, he knew that, and like I was able to get across what. And I just thought that was really lovely, because he played beautifully in it, and the whole atmosphere of the pagoda and the beautiful day that it was, and overlooking Kiev, it was just a lovely feeling. Sorry to waffle on.
I set that up. I kind of it took quite a lot of organising to make that happen for you. But
is a logistician. It's Mark, the logistician.
Do you remember just around the corner from that we encountered the ramp? I say a ramp. It was the hill, which was incredibly long, and we had to brace your wheelchair on the way down.
Yeah, so basically, I was in my wheelchair, and this was a really steep way down, and it kept on having ridges as well. I think as well.
Yeah.
Like it was a bit
Speed
of a nightmare
bumps.
getting down. Yeah. Oh man. But yeah,
we put our lives at risk holding you back. You could have rolled over us and killed us.
Yes. Yeah. So good times, and yeah, that was wonderful. Really, in fact, the whole trip. As and just to give people the proper context to Mark. Mark was served in the British Army as a logistician, so his job was logistics, and he did a pretty good job of sorting us out in all of these different places. But all of these wonderful photos, I'm just looking through a bunch of them now. I just, let's go through some of them. Just, the flag waving at the motherland. That was at the Statue of the Motherland. There's Pierre, or Pedge, as he likes to be known, doing his photography. This is Rob. This is Mike. Hats off to Mike. He's not with us today. And total legend. So this is the destroyed vehicles in the middle of Kiev.
So just on that, what I love is they change it. So
different the second time we were out there.
Yeah. And there was do you remember that they actually had a combine harvester there, didn't they?
Yeah.
There, you can just see it, the yellow.
See it,
Yes.
Show you the bombing the farmers, That's the people who died in the pre-20, that's the 2014.
2014.
So I'd always been under the understanding, like really trivial level of understanding, that Ukraine was just steamrolled and gave up straight away in 2014 when they invaded Crimea and ran away. And then you go to that wall and you see thousands and thousands and thousands of Ukrainians that died in that campaign as well.
Yeah.
I had no idea, zero idea that no, they did not just roll over.
Betty Pie doing his photobomb. But no, they didn't. You're right. You're absolutely right. They didn't roll over.
They've been being killed by Russians and fighting back for a lot longer than I've been involved in this. Week one started caring about it of full-scale invasion, and feel bad, really bad, for not being involved for longer and earlier.
Yeah, the great JR.
JR.
Good to have JR there. The friendship monument.
Seeing JR, do you remember the photo at Dana's at the warehouse? Where JR was really suffering. Do you remember?
Yes.
Do you remember that morning?
Yeah.
That was after the Rudroff night. He was just dying. It was hilarious.
He wasn't well for a lot of the trip, so he really
he did well, man.
Pulled it together. Yeah, really well.
I think he might have been a bit hungover though as well. Anyway,
I love these.
You try and keep up with Pierre, that's going to happen.
Here's the team. This is what I want to find out. So that's Dana, who came out with us for the meal that night, and there's all of us apart from Pierre. So that's a really lovely photo. I love that. Great one there from Pierre.
That's warehouse. On for life, so.
Yeah. He was not in a good way then. But yeah, that was good times. That was driving down on the. I think that was at the border, wasn't it? When we had, as ever, it's always interesting at the border because you're never quite sure whether you're going to get through. Was it right? But you're never quite sure whether you're going to get through easily or not. And we did get through okay, but the paperwork, it was much smoother than it was the time before.
What are you saying about the paperwork, JP? That was my job. It was neat.
Yeah.
Dan, I forget the job. So the different jobs that people have. Dan had the paperwork job for all. So when you are
the files?
moving, when you are moving all of this equipment, like vehicles and generators and battery welders and all this, you've got to have the paperwork to do it because if nothing else, the Ukrainians love a bit of paperwork. And
how many stamps? When that happened, we're through.
The noise of the stamp going is just joy, right? Because you've got 4 vehicles and 7 other people, depending on you, doing all the admin right, and the number of changes. Oh, we can't send you this generator. We've picked another one, and the Power Electrics, like, love them. They gave all the generators, but they were swapping things out because they had to. Because this one's actually in that warehouse, whatever. Oh, that's going in this vehicle, and it was just like constantly just in Excel. It was like days. And you get to the border and you just realize if you've messed this up, you're going to be. I've been turned away from borders before doing the humanitarian stuff because, this is a color photocopy. It's not the original documentation. You just drive down and find another border crossing and finally you'll get there, right? But it's trouble. I've been fined. It's just the terror of screwing everything up for everybody else with that one bit of the trip that you're doing was extreme. So yeah, that noise, Mark, of the they're all stamping the paperwork now. They decide it's all okay. Such relief.
I've just spoken to Benny. I've just sent him a link. He is like, I didn't know this was on because he's obviously been out of it for a couple of days. So I don't know whether he's going to join in at the end for us. You can do it, matey. You can do it. He's just typing back to me. You know,
come on, Benny.
Come on,
you
Benny.
Can do it.
The good thing is we didn't have to drive back into Poland to get kicked out and to get vehicles back in this time.
That was the other thing. On the way to that border, right, in Poland. So I think JP had been paying for the fuel routinely when we all filled up at like the
well, actually, I think
stops.
Mark had. But
okay. Well,
through the funding,
it was being covered, so you kind of go, "Oh no, it's all right." I've got to sort everyone out. So I'd kind of like filled up at one of the stations, and then gone in and bought a sandwich. And they're like, "Any fuel?" I was like, "No, my mate's paid for it. It's fine." And sort of about, I don't know, half an hour, I don't know, we just having a chat. I went, "You did? Oh, it was the next stop, wasn't it?" I went, "You did pay for fuel at the last place, right?" "No." We're now like 2 hours on from where I've just stolen a truck's full of fuel and heading for a border with obviously registration plate, whatever. Oh, this could absolutely muller the crossing. So I'm driving in Poland. JR's too ill to be driving at this point, so I'm doing the driving, and on my phone trying to translate into Polish and back, get the address of where the place is, and sort out IBAN transfer payments. Managed all of this before we got to the border by about, I don't know, it was like an hour or 2 hours before. Like I'd got through to the manager of the petrol station. Oh man, that was hideous. And then have you seen how long IBAN numbers are? Try typing them in when you're driving. It's not safe. I wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, I was just again terrified I was going to mess up the whole trip by you can't cross the border. You'll nick son. That would not have been fun.
Yeah. You did well to get onto that and
I am
sort
a
it
bit
out.
calamitous, really. I don't think Mark and JP really realised that till this trip, did you?
You are a legend.
You're definitely entertainment value.
Yeah.
Do you remember crossing that border and then that hour? It's a 2 hours drive into Lviv.
Yeah.
Just how beautiful it was.
Yeah.
And just how peaceful it was.
Yeah.
That's not just
mate.
giving credit to Ukraine. That's after spending like 30 hours on a motorway, like at 6,000 revs. Or
you're right. Suddenly you're
that's Vesperian.
Normal road.
But suddenly there's like horse carts and just I don't know. It's like sunset time. It's just glorious. Yeah, I remember that moment. And then having to rush to try and find something to eat or drink before curfew. You remember?
Yeah.
But it was nice to drive through a red light. I remember that. Because the last one we went through is obviously about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Countryside. Yeah, beautiful road. I've never been on that route. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Man, I remember the cobbled streets of Lviv as well. Because I'd come out of a sort of hospital bed. I'd been I broke a few limbs recklessly skiing, or skiing recklessly, probably a bit of both. So I wasn't sure I was going to make the trip, but I was getting better and better. And that was the only time that any kind of my injuries gave me trouble. It was the cobbled streets of Lviv and the constant shaking up and down in those trucks. Everything else was
Better off
fine.
going
But yeah,
fast. Yeah.
that's a nice place, though. I'd encourage everyone
I
to,
love
to,
Lviv.
to go. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
it's far
Paul
less
spent
safe than it was last year. I was happy to just go. No, you'd be fine, man. Just travel. But man, the Russians are
Paul spent a good
plastering all that.
3 weeks there this last time, didn't you, Paul?
I was in Lviv for about a week and a half, and then I was in Zaporizhia for a week, and then traveling in between. But yeah, I've been in Lviv now, I think about 3 or 4 weeks total in a couple of trips. And it is an awesome town. And, and coming from the States, I assume it's similar for coming from the UK. Everything's fairly inexpensive. The people are great. The food is great. Yeah, it's an amazing city to visit.
Yeah, it's an amazing country, isn't it? I agree. I mean, I'd say the same for Kiev and Odessa. They're all different characters. But yeah, wonderful people, incredible food, and beautiful country.
And Odessa was just stunning. It was absolutely lovely.
Yeah, architectural masterpiece.
Yeah, I haven't been to
many of
Odessa,
them.
but I want to go. Yeah. So
just try not to negotiate it with a wheelchair. It's like pretty challenging. Although actually, the same can be said for Lviv and Kiev. So
and Chisinau.
I think Odessa had the biggest contrast between people living a normal life. You went down to the beach, there was people swimming, sunbathing, and then you had drones coming in, air defense firing off, and it was just a real contrast there.
Sunbathing next to anti-aircraft guns, because that's normal.
And that was exactly where it was hit there recently with people casualties on that beach where we had been. In fact, Benny Pye, who I'm just speaking to at the moment, he was amazing and jumped off the pier into the water at that place.
I dared him. I think it was a €50 donation to Richard Woodruff's a fundraising thing. He's like, go on then, and he just went straight off and did it. Yeah, legend.
Yeah, absolute legend. He's a well-travelled man. In fact, he and I have had this competition as to who's been to the most countries. I don't think we compare to probably Pierre. Pierre's probably beaten us.
Mark's got an app for that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we're on Mark's app. Bit of a competition there, but Benny is a very well-travelled guy actually, and also really interesting in the places he's been are like kind of off the beaten track, not just the kind of regular countries, if you like. So a lot of Eastern Europe and beyond, and the same actually for Pierre. Pierre's been to North Korea multiple times, so that's not something everyone can boast about.
10 times.
10.
Wow.
You've been to North Korea 10.
Yeah.
Like,
well, only been twice. Yeah.
No, 10.
Someone put itching powder in your boots, didn't they? Itchy feet.
Someone paid for it. It's yeah. Anyway, it's shut off now. Those days are over.
Yeah. I didn't know that they were. I didn't know that you could go there, but anyway, there you go.
You can if you got a Russian passport or Chinese. That's it.
Yeah. Now, I presume not
one
them.
of those.
Yeah. Well, look. Let's bring this to a amicable conclusion. Thank you very much to Paul for joining in for this one, as he was not a member of the original team, but is now an honorary member of the team.
Totally.
And get me on the next trip, and then I'll up my membership status.
yeah, for sure, definitely. Yeah, I'm thinking this
September.
Yeah, what I did like about this last time is that it wasn't the dead of winter. Both the other times that I've been to Ukraine, it's been right in the middle of winter, which makes things a little bit challenging. But this time it was beautiful sunshine, and it gives Ukraine a different kind of context, different complexion, if you like. And I really appreciated that. As Pierre was saying, driving into Western Ukraine with the beautiful sunshine and the fields, and actually when we were driving, there's a Me helicopter flying in the background, and that was all like Me
I8.
Yeah. So but yes, so next time, Paul, we'll get you in with us. apologies that we couldn't have Mike because I forgot to invite him till last minute. Benny is saying that unfortunately didn't see the threads and whatnot. It was pretty last minute, this one. So I do have to apologize to both Benny. JR was unable to make it due to his back and whatnot. But I know Benny is a little upset that he wasn't here. So apologies to you, Benny, but we'll do one again sooner rather than later, because I think it's nice to hang out with you guys and talk about all the things Ukraine and beyond. So I appreciate that. Any final words any of you want to add for what it's worth?
I'm just going to say, I'm sure we're going to all meet up in person before Benny goes off. We've got to do that, and more than happy to host.
Yeah. It sounds fantastic to me.
So next trip, someone else can do the admin.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. You've got the app now, Mark. You're now contracted in. Well, look. Yeah. Go for it, guys. Go for it.
I was going to say I'm still working on this chalet just up the road from me. Do you remember I sent a video like a while back?
Yes, don't go. I'm coming over in January, February, March.
Anyway, it's
that's my plan.
We could have a general meeting there. What do you call it? ATGM? No, that's
an
ATGM.
ATPGEO
conference. In the mountains. It's called the Eagle's Nest. Or the something, the Wolf's Lair, or I don't know, call it whatever you want. It's in the mountains.
Sold.
Anyway,
done.
I'll send you an update. Yeah,
please do.
So, but
let's meet.
We need to get you one of those chairs, JP. Where we ski down behind you, and
I'd love that. My days of snowboarding are long gone.
That's right. Piggyback.
Yeah,
you'll be fine, mate.
Easy.
There's always the luge or the skeleton.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at lying down. Actually, I'm pretty good at lying down. Yeah, I can. Well, look, guys, it's been a pleasure. Always a pleasure, never a chore. You guys take care. And I will no doubt try and do this sooner rather than later. I wanted to get this squeezed in because I wanted to fit it in with Paul, because Paul's been wanting to hang out with us for a little bit, so this works out. I'm going on holiday fairly soon for another couple of weeks in the sun somewhere, much needed actually. I've been fairly exhausted recently with just like probably doing too much. I'm like trying to get a book fully completed that I've been working on for like 6 years off and on. So that's taking a bit of thinking headspace. I've also been approached. I'm writing a philosophical scientific journal for a paper for a journal with my co-author about panpsychism. So that's something else that I, because I'm not busy enough. Let's just write a journal entry. Just for shits and giggles, right? So my brain is pretty exhausted, and I think a couple of weeks will do me good. But I'm also going to be producing videos every day because, of course, with a pina colada in my hand. But anyway, that's by the by. So where I was going with this is that's why I tried to squeeze this in fairly quickly, and why it's a little bit out of the blue. So I'm going to be going away fairly soon. So just a warning to the audience that might happen. Anyway. Thank you very much to the live chat. I've almost forgotten they're here, but you guys are legends. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you very much to Stephen Bendal, to the Pirate, to Julian Rossiter, to Michael Vujar, to Stephen Bendal and Pirate, and Stephen Bendal and the Pirate, Deb Stuff. All of you are legends, and Jiri Krause as well. Really appreciate that. And the Pirate, last one, Mark Egir beer from Norway. Port is good. Some alcohol advice there from the great Pirate. I appreciate that. Take care, super chatters and live chatters and members. I appreciate you. Thank you for keeping the lights on, and thank you for you guys for being the legends you are. Stay in the green room. And I guess the last thing to say would be Slava Ukraini. It's a little bit mute. Slava Ukraini. Slava
Heroes
Ukraini.
Slava!
Heroes Slava.
Well, yeah, that's better. That's better. And thanks so much to Benny Pye and JR and Mike Praben as well. Legends one and all. Stay in the green room, guys, and I'll speak to you soon.